one. Steve!
Yes, sir.
My
Good
man.
to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, brother. Michael,
Really good.
Pleasure to meet you, man.
Thanks for having us today.
Yeah, really, thanks. It's been a while. I saw you
The last time I saw you was at the old studio.
3 years ago.
Yeah,
But it looks exactly, it's eerie. This is exactly
I'm
the same
gonna
place.
do it again. The next place I move, I'm gonna rebuild this whole thing again. That's my move. Just make it look like this.
Make it comfortable. You know, you like what you like.
It looks like the same thing.
Yeah. That way you don't get confused.
Same desk. Everything.
Yeah, this is
the
great.
same.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, brother. I'm bummed out though about your sauce.
Yeah.
I was just bragging
grew
to somebody
too
about
fast.
it the other day.
We grew too fast, but you have two of the last ones left.
I don't know what to do. Is
That
it like
inexistent.
Do I like let it sit on a shelf?
No. Listen, the sauce was good.
It's all natural and organic.
It was all good. Just unfortunately, it grew too fast, and my partner, we had enough. He lost a lot of money, but
Oh no.
not for lack of trying, or the product.
No, the
It's
product's excellent.
Let me tell you the biggest fucking thieves.
Okay.
Bigger than the mob, bigger than any thief, these stores that you do business with. Okay, and the distributors. And then you have all these people with their hand in the pie. So we buy the sauce, it's our recipe. That guy makes it. Now we got to give it to a distributor. You can't go direct to like Whole Foods and shit. So there's other hands in the pie. Now you give them a bill for 20 grand of sauce that you gave them, and they send you back a check for 3 grand. And they go, well, there was breakage, and there was this, and there was that, and you have to pay more money in the store to have it in the front and have it stacked.
Oh really?
You are
pay
fucked.
more.
You are fucked. Just like a book. You know, I've had books. I don't know if you have. I have books out. Barnes & Noble. To say Barnes & Noble, you had a book out, right? You have a book out. Barnes & Noble favorite. You got to pay more for that. To have the book on the shelf turned this way, you got to pay more for that. They nickel and dime you, and they fucking kill you. They are the real mob. I'm telling you.
Are they worse than funeral homes though? No one's worse than funeral homes.
Well, they tug on your...
Heartstrings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, he was a great guy. Aren't you going to have the nice box? And,
Did you start out doing this just through the internet though?
we started in the stores. We didn't really, we came to Amazon later. My partner,
Did trade shows. too,
Joe
right?
Scarp, great guy. He was here last time. He's my partner. He put up the money. He's a builder. He said, we're going to make $50 million. We're going to sell the company. And he's got $50 million. He doesn't need another 50. And
Got a little greedy.
no, he wanted to go. Listen, he's not a small-time guy. It's all
Right.
or nothing. So
Right.
I give him credit for that.
It's such a good sauce though. It kind of seems like you should just do it online.
Maybe they'll make a comeback, And like I said, if we would have stayed small delis,
Yeah.
it was doing great. Staten Island, the biggest Italian area, the
Yeah.
Guinea gangplank there. All them Italians ate jar sauce. Even they won't admit it. They fucking like that sauce. Right?
It's a good sauce. It's natural. It doesn't have that acidy thing that a lot of jarred sauces have.
You know, and I did all the press. We did all the shit. I said if I would have, instead of being a partner, I should have made $20 an hour. I would did well.
So you guys are doing a podcast now?
We're doing a podcast, rewatch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sussman clued me into it.
Yeah, it's
We
called.
got approached by a bunch of different producers towards the end of last year about doing it. It wasn't our idea. And we thought about it. We had done a show like on stage in conversation, like inside the actor's studio, and we did all over the country, did Australia last year. And then a couple of producers said, do you want to do a podcast? And we worked, Jeff was the best of the producers, so we figured out a way to do it. We were going to do it in the studio live like this at the end of March in New York, and
The COVID hit.
everything hit. So we weren't going to do it at all. We were going to put it off because we were depressed, and we were like, who needs a podcast in the midst of all this stuff?
What is New York like right now?
I've been there. I've been here a month now. I have a place down in Orange County, and New York was all fucked up, and it's all boarded up. And my daughter's there. I live downtown, way downtown, and I was going out like an hour a day. That's it. I just went out an hour a day. I would go take a walk, and the streets are empty.
Yeah.
Streets were empty at night. Now, after the looting, they destroyed Soho.
Yeah.
You know, it's just destroyed, you know, and the cops are very timid and it's all fucked up. I mean, it's all fucked up. I don't know what happens there. I mean, I don't know. You know
I don't know how it happened. Like, seeing the cops just standing around while they were looting the art galleries in Soho, while they were smashing Fifth Avenue. It was like,
I don't know.
What the fuck is this?
I don't know.
It's like the end of the world.
Yeah,
you know,
it's really scary and
De
depressing.
Blasio's the worst fucking. I'm not a political guy at all, Joe. Like, not at all. But he's the worst fucking human that maybe walks the face of the earth. I kid you not. And, you know, I owned an apartment in Manhattan for like 9 years. And when he became the mayor, within a year, you saw, even 6 months, right? You saw like these fucking changes. I'm going, I'm out. I'm selling my fucking place. And I sold my place.
What changes?
All kinds of shit. The cops, basically, they have one hand tied behind their back. He changed all these laws, stop and frisk, da-da-da. Some needed to be changed, some not. Just the homeless is everywhere all of a sudden.
Yeah.
The trains are impossible. There's all kinds of shit going on, you know, and I have to blame the mayor. I mean, there's, you know, where I live downtown, listen, I'm compassionate to the homeless. I don't know the answer, which is why I'm not the fucking mayor, but they're everywhere.
Same thing here.
You know.
Yeah, our governor was the mayor of San Francisco, which is the craziest fucking place you've ever seen in your life when it comes to homeless people.
Yeah, it's a big problem now.
And now, after COVID, it's like ramped up 40%.
Yeah.
Like the homeless situation there it doesn't even make sense. Like, you're seeing these beautiful homes and there's campsites in front of them. And these people have to come out of their houses and, you know, tiptoe around needles and broken bottles and people's shit.
This might get worse, though, right?
It could
After
get-
COVID, with the economy, you know, collapsing as it did.
yeah.
and,
Well,
you know,
that's what was happening with the COVID too in New York, because listen, these guys standing on the corner, they're panhandling. There was no one to get money from. I mean, there was
Right.
no one to panhandle. The streets were completely empty. Broadway, downtown, you could shoot a cannon through it, not a car.
Yeah, Mark Norman, you know the comic, Mark Norman, you know him? Hilarious guy. Filmed a bunch of shit with him just running around New York City with empty streets.
There's nobody
Just,
around.
How weird it looked.
Wall Street is empty. All these places that are packed were empty. I don't know the answer. And with the cops, I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I mean,
It's all so bizarre, and I think so many people are either going to resign from the force, but definitely not join the force. There's a lot of guys that are thinking about joining the force.
that's a tough job, man, for very little pay, and you're putting your life at stake.
And just public opinion of the force is down so low.
I don't get it. Listen, I know if, God forbid, I had trouble, I call a cop. I'm
Yeah.
pro-cop.
I'm
you know what I
pro-cop
mean?
as well.
I play a cop now. You know, I've been on Blue Bloods for 5 years. I play a detective. I'm pro-cop. You play cops. You just for playing a detective.
played a homicide detective.
Yeah. We went from wise guys to detectives. There's a fine line. Is there a fine line there? But
Yeah.
but I agree. New York is. My daughter had just gone back, and it's really depressing, man. You know, you haven't been, right?
No, I've been in California since March 1st. I was in New York before that. And so, yeah, couldn't go back, really. But I live here and there, both places.
Yeah.
It was a little easier here up in Santa Barbara area.
I love it up there.
Yeah, a lot easier to be quarantined there because
Yeah.
you go outside and backyard and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so.
the beach. It's like Santa Barbara's the perfect size.
But I mean, I was in New York. They shut us down March 13th with 2.5 episodes to go. We just got shut down, and then then you couldn't even go out of the house 2 days later. I mean, I wasn't aware of anything. I mean, the trains were packed. I was taking the train and shit, and I went to a concert a few days before
Wow.
at the Beacon. You know, Dave Matthews and Jackson Brown. There was a fucking concert, but nobody said anything. You know, and
Jackson Brown got sick, didn't
yeah,
he?
he
Didn't
got
get
sick.
COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe at that concert. No.
You know, maybe. But then it was just, I was there for 2 months, and it was gloom, and I'm in a building.
Yeah.
So you got to watch the elevator, the fucking
Right.
doorman, the thing, order food in. It's just it makes you crazy. Wipe off the package. Don't wipe off the package. Wear gloves. Don't wear gloves. What the fuck?
Nobody knows. It's a very, very confusing time. Yeah, nobody knows what the fuck is going on.
So
But doing a podcast was a good thing to do in the midst of all this because we figured out a way to do it at home, so we didn't have to, be in a studio. Set up a little studio in the house, figured out a way to do it. He was in New York and I was in California, and that's how we started.
Yeah, it can be done. And there's so many people listening to shit now.
Yeah.
The thing is, consumers are up, and in terms of like watchers, viewers of shows, listeners of podcasts,
Right.
it's all up because people were just sitting around doing nothing for months at a time.
Right, and it was kind of particularly good timing for us because the Sopranos was being binge watched by people in quarantine, like rediscovering it, young people who had never seen it. It was, I think, it was HBO's #2 series. And that includes all their new stuff, like Game of Thrones and everything. And I think it was Westworld and The Sopranos were their biggest shows during quarantine. The show's been off the air for 13 years.
Well, listen, this is one of the best fucking shows of all time. It really is. You guys were on, without a doubt, when the history is written, it is one of the best shows ever.
Yeah, no. And you know what's amazing? Neither one of us watched it in 20 years. I mean, I didn't watch the show. I mean, I watched it one time when it came out years ago. And we weren't even we were kind of depressed, and we were going, who the fuck cares about a TV show now? Because the world was coming to an end, especially at the beginning,
Right.
Joe. I mean, and we had gotten offered shit, and Jeff helped us. We were giving Jeff like contracts. Is this a good deal? Is this a good deal? Finally, he said, listen, I'll fucking help you.
We should tell her, but Jeff's my manager.
Yeah, Jeff Sussman. So he helped us, and we started doing the rewatch, which is obviously bittersweet because of Jim. You're watching Jim, and he's young, and I came on the second season, the second episode. But the show holds up every fucking, like it was shot yesterday. Besides the phones and the computers, everything else is like it was done yesterday. It's not dated at all, the show.
And we weren't going to, we were going to wait till things got back to normal so we could be in a studio like this and be face-to-face, but we got so much communication from fans, like on social media, saying, hey, we heard you're doing a podcast. Where is it? We're binge watching the show in quarantine. Like tons of that. So we figured out a way to do it.
So, we watched the episode. We're up to episode 12 now. It's on YouTube and wherever you get the podcast. And then we run down the episode. He wrote 5 of them, so he knows he knows a lot more than me. I watch it more like a regular viewer. We tell stories, behind the scenes shit, stuff that went on, stuff we remember. We've had guests. We got Edie Falco next week. We've had the casting people. We've had the 2 kids, Robert Isla, director, whoever made the show a success. So
costume designer. Yeah.
Well, it's a great thing to do, to go back and review it, just to kind of give the people that are fans this sense of, what it was like for you guys and what it's like to see it again, and just to put it into context in history. When that's the show that started off these kind of shows. When you think about the shows that you have today, like the Ozarks and all these different, like really kind of wild shows where you have to follow one episode to the next, and you have to know what just happened to pay attention to the new episode. The Sopranos started that shit.
Yeah.
And it was also the first show where there was a real anti-hero.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was also bringing a cinematic quality to television that
Yes.
people would traditionally go to the movies for, or even a novelistic quality.
Well, in a sense, better. Because you could do it over the course of many hours. You weren't limited by an hour and a half, 2-hour time frame. Right. You could do it over the course of multiple hours.
Right.
And he wasn't, listen, he was a overweight, balding guy. He wasn't your typical leading man.
But he was sexy. Chicks liked him.
They loved him. I told you. We used to say TV doesn't put he used to say all the time. They used to say TV puts 10 pounds on you. I say it takes 50 pounds off you.
Well, there was something about his character. I mean, first of all, he was a phenomenal actor, like always was. I mean, he was fucking insane in everything he did. True Romance. I mean, you just go back through his whole history of his career. But that show, doing Tony Soprano, just fucking synced. Whatever it was, his look.
Those moments when the actor and the role really come, the great
Yes.
actor and the great role really come together, because they don't always.
They don't
you know?
always. He was fucking perfect for that role.
And you see him like there's scenes, and now I look at it kind of differently, obviously, than back then. Back then I was just trying not to get fucking killed. But now you're watching it, and in one scene, right? There's some incredible scenes where he's happy, mad, furious. In one 3-minute scene, he goes through 4 different emotions. He's amazing in it. I don't know if you remember this, but when I first got the job, I had to go. I got the job. I auditioned. I got the job. I had to go to a read-through, and I happened to see you. I think you were working in Vegas at the Riv, and I said, Joe, what? I asked you and another comic, I think Bill Kirkenbauer. I said, what goes on in a read-through? Because even though I had worked, I didn't know.
Right.
And I said, do you do it like 100%? And you told me, 85, 90%, like don't go all in. You actually told me that.
For an audition or read-through?
For the audition, for the read-through.
A read-through.
I mean, do you
already had the
fucking,
part.
you're around the table. I didn't quite know if you go all, fucking start acting,
Right.
or you just read the lines, which some people do just flat, which is terrible. I mean, that's not the answer. There's people that actually get fired during a read-through.
Right. Yeah.
After a read-through. There's actually, you know that, right?
Because they're so flat.
I didn't know. I honestly, if I would have known
really
that.
be there then. They should have known that already.
Yeah, but if
From an
I would have
audition.
known that you could get fired after the read-through, I would have been shitting my pants. I was so naive that I didn't even realize that.
Well, that's the interesting thing. When I tell people that I knew you from the Riv, they go, "What did he do there?" I go, "He was the talent coordinator." I go, "Shut the fuck up." I go, "Yeah, I worked for him. I got booked by Steve Schirripa at the Riviera. It was one of the first times I ever worked in Vegas.
It was great.
And you had gotten some gigs through Drew Carey. You had done the Drew Carey show.
I did Drew Carey show. Bruce Baum helped me. Kevin Pollak. Those guys at the beginning. Absolutely. I did Drew special.
What was the first acting you did, actually?
First acting I did was Bruce Baum on the golf course. We did a thing. Then Lenny Clark. I played a prison guard.
What, in a special?
Yeah, he had
Comedy
like
special?
these. Remember Friday Night Comics?
Uh-huh.
Remember that show
Yeah.
on Fox? Yeah, they were like little sketches, 5-minute sketches, and we had Lenny Clark in the. He was in the chair, electric chair.
Is he from England? Lenny Clark?
No,
He's
he's
from Boston.
Oh, no. I don't know.
And I pulled the switch. I swear to you, I looked right into the camera, right into the fucking camera. I didn't know what I was doing. That was the second thing I did. Then Kevin Pollak put me in his special. I played his bodyguard. And then Drew and, little shit.
Did you start as an actor or comedian?
Comedian.
A comedian.
Yeah. I only acted for a little while. I just did news radio.
Do you like it?
I like stand-up better. Yeah. The acting problem is actors. You have to hang out with actors. That's the problem with acting.
Yeah, but you
It's
were
everything is so
sitcoms.
sensitive and just... It's just they're, some of them are great. The news radio people were great. It wasn't the problem. The problem was when I'd run into other actors, you meet them. There's just this boundary of bullshit
Yeah,
you have
of
to get
course.
through to get to the actual person.
Absolutely.
Whereas comics are right there. They're right there for you. You meet a comic on the road, like a comic I don't know. I meet him like, "Hey, what the fuck you doing?" "Oh, I'm working for this guy and that guy." "Huh." He's right there. They're right there. You meet him instantly.
See, I find it the opposite.
Really? How so?
The actors, I find, like what you're saying about comics, I find about actors, and I find the opposite about comedians.
You know what? Maybe that is. It's that.
Because that's where
They're
you're
your
coming
people,
from. Yeah.
right? They know. Oh, it's Michael.
I'm
It's-
not saying that just to be contrary.
No, I
lit-
believe you.
literally mean it.
Yeah, but also there's a difference between New York actors and LA actors.
That is true.
There's a big difference between these TV actors, and there's something about that they can almost fucking taste it. It's like the actors that aren't quite there yet. They can almost taste it. They're kind of working, but they're not secure.
Yeah.
They're getting auditions, and maybe they might book something, but maybe they won't.
Do you remember when we auditioned for? We auditioned.
Look at you.
Oh, yeah. Look, that's my first thing I ever did. Chia Man. We shot it out here. Look. That's the tuxedo from the Riv.
Is it really? Oh, that's
Did you show
hilarious.
this to David Chase to get The Sopranos? Is that?
You
is
can
this
see
what
I'm
got
not
you
a
there?
golfer, obviously.
When you got The Sopranos, I was like, holy shit. And it was, for me, it was a thing that I would tell people. I was like, listen, there's certain things that a person could just do. You can't just go on stage and do stand-up. It takes
Yeah.
too long. You can't just learn guitar. But some people can fucking act, and you were really good.
Not in theater, though. In film and television.
It's different in theater.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just... You can get somebody who's never acted, and if you're a good director or something, get them in front of a camera, make them feel comfortable, give them stuff to do, but you can't put them on a stage. They'll
It's because
just
of the
freeze.
crowd. Because the crowd.
It's like doing, like you
Right.
said, with stand-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, crowd, you're on
Makes sense.
stage. You have to... there's no second take. You have to create these moments for 2 hours straight and sustain it. It's not just getting a couple of lines.
Right.
Yeah, but there's actors you can't just learn stand-up. It's a very underrated art form. Okay, absolutely. To
You
me,
have to do it and do it. And
you're
do
by
it.
yourself.
Yeah,
You're out
of
there.
course.
There's actors like what's his fucking name? Piven, that little fuck. Jeremy Piven. He's a stand-up comic now. Now, how'd that happen? Is he a stand-up
I heard
comic?
he's very good, though.
Or is he acting as a stand-up
Did you see
comic?
his stand-up?
I have not seen it.
What he's basically doing is what he can do. I mean, I think because of all that shit that happened with him and the Me Too movement,
Yeah, survival.
it's nothing else he can do.
But do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I've seen comics. Listen, I was around comics from 1986. I started at the Riviera. All right? It's very difficult. It takes guys years and years and years and years to find their voice, their rhythm. Even if a comic, if you don't like their material, not every comic's for every guy, the guy's a pro. He's really
Right.
good. It's subjective.
Yes.
Hey, don't make me laugh. Hey, this guy I think is hilarious. But when a guy just don't have it. I mean,
Right.
this guy's, and there's numerous actors that, or humorists, whatever they are, that started doing stand-up without putting all the work in.
Yeah, I think what happens is the income opportunities get smaller.
Yeah,
And
sure.
And then they look at stand up, and then someone says, "Listen, we can schedule a tour for you. You do this size."
I don't blame them for doing it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean,
It's a different thing.
I don't blame them, but it's a different thing. Hey, listen,
I heard he's good, though, Piven. His
Is he?
actors,
That I
I've read
don't know.
reviews.
I
that said
have
it was
no idea.
actually-
I
people
just find it hard to
people
believe.
were very surprised, actually,
Oh,
that
really?
he was good at it.
I still don't like
Because
the
they
fuck.
expected him. They expected him not to be good.
He's a
because of
fucking
his
rude
acting.
fuck. But me and you audition. I think you got the role. We didn't audition for the same role, but it was a Bob Simon's movie.
What movie is that? I didn't get it, definitely, because I didn't do it. The only movies I've ever done is Kevin James movies.
Really?
Yeah. I
Because
did,
we auditioned
Zookeeper.
and Pee Wee Herman came out. Yes, we auditioned Dave Sheridan.
What year is this?
We're going way back. I was on The Sopranos already, but probably early 2000s. We were there. Dave Sheridan.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
He was the star of the
Yes, I
movie.
did
We
get
didn't
that
know who
movie.
he
That's
was.
right. I did that fucking movie.
That's right.
I forgot I did that movie.
And I said to you, "Who's this fucking guy?" or something.
That's
And
right.
you said, "I don't know." And I think he overheard us. He was the star of the movie.
What movie?
I forget the name of it, but he's a good guy, Dave
Yeah,
Sheridan.
very good guy.
A
Very
really good
funny.
guy.
Very funny guy.
But I didn't. I said, "Who's he?"
He's a
I
comedian.
think he overheard us.
Who's Dave Sheridan?
He's a comic actor,
Yeah.
and a funny guy. And Paul Rubens came out and he said, "It's a great room, guys." And we were just sitting there. And I didn't get it. You got it.
Yeah, that was an interesting take because that guy was he was a young guy and he had never been the star of a movie before, and they were making this movie, and because they put money into this, the executives were giving him line readings. There was a guy who was wearing cufflinks and an
really?
expensive watch and this really nice tailored suit, and he was telling him how to be funny.
That
He
was
like-
Bob Simons. That was probably the producer.
I don't know who it
Because
was.
I did a movie with him, See Spot Run. And this was after that. That's who it was.
Did he
Robert
need line
Simons.
readings, or the guy was just
No!
being an asshole?
He was just being a
He can
fucking
get
guy
smacked.
with money.
He's lucky he didn't get smacked or something like that.
Line
Certain
readings.
situations, you don't do that.
Well,
That's
I
bad.
think the guy wanted to do the movie. He was happy to be the star of the movie, and he just took it.
Remember when they gave Dominic a line reading? Dominic's the most calm. Dominic Chianese played Uncle Junior, the most calm guy, just sweetheart. And somebody gave him line readings, and he flipped out. Man.
I was in the car. We were in the camera car, and I was driving on the New Jersey Turnpike. They were towing the car, but the
Right.
camera was there, and I was stuck. I couldn't get out. And the director came over, and Dominic was going, "Don't tell me how to do it. Just tell me what you want." And this is the nicest man in the history, right? And he was going, "Don't tell me how to do it. Just tell me what you want."
What is the thing about actors with line readings?
Because then you're not discovering it. You're not creating the moment. You're just imitating it.
Right.
So it's not organic, and might not be as interesting as what you're going to come up with as an actor.
But it doesn't bother me so much.
A lot of directors don't know how to deal with actors, so they think that that's helpful. But it's actually the opposite. It's not helpful because
when they give you a line reading, they would actually say the line the way they
Yes.
want.
sometimes they will.
And you know what? That doesn't bother me.
Bothers me. I flip out.
It hasn't happened much.
I've gone off on directors for that.
And listen, especially with
I
a
don't take that
sitcom,
shit.
which I find very difficult. I find 1 hour dramas, I like that so much more. Sitcoms, a different rhythm, a different beat. I don't think I'm very good at it, and I've done quite a bit of them. The guy's giving me a no to give me. I said, just tell me what you want, man. How do you say it? Tell me how to say it.
Right.
I'll fucking do what you want. Because obviously I'm not getting what you want. I want to make the director happy. I want to do a good job. Tell me. It doesn't bother me that much, I have had directors. I did a movie with a young kid. It was a really good role, a younger kid. And after every take, he came over to talk to me. Finally, I went, just let me fucking do my thing. I'll figure it out. Just
Yeah, they're
stay
not
away, man.
appreciative of the fact that you've got to think about what you're doing, and if they're yapping at you, then you're thinking about them, and it interrupts this whole process.
Absolutely.
You freak out though, Michael.
Yeah, because as an actor, you're playing the scene, the reality of the scene, whatever it is. This guy's saying something and it pisses you off. So
Right.
That's what you're trying to create. That's what you're trying to do. If someone tells you, say the line like this, well, then I'm not in the moment. I'm not dealing with this. I'm just thinking about imitating this douchebag who just told me to say something a certain way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had a director who said to me, make a comical face. And I said, I don't know what that means. Do you want me to be happy? Do you want me to be ecstatic, over the top, really excited? Make a funny face. And then I said, I don't know what that means.
I think he said be more cartoonish.
And then he said, well, I'm not really good at... I swear to God, he said, I'm not really good at giving direction. I said, that's your job. That's actually the title of the job, is direction.
Well, do you feel like as an actor, it's a strange thing to do because you're creating something, but it's also this collaborative effort. You're working with the other actors, but you're also working with the director. There's the script that you're supposed to be following, and maybe there's some changes to the script, and there's so much going on to try to create your version of it, that the more that people are fucking with you, the more that's going to just throw you off the rails.
It does. And what I found is the best people, the best director, best actors and writers make it so you feel very comfortable and that you are free to create and that you're not being dominated or dictated to and stuff like that. Like, for instance, the best example is Martin Scorsese, who I only worked with once in a movie. I felt like I could do no wrong. He creates that environment where you feel completely creative and free. And it doesn't get better than him,
Doesn't get better. I would imagine that's a real skill that you hone to be able to look at it from the artist's perspective, from the actor's perspective, and just to figure out how to be the least annoying, the most supportive, and then just sort of convey what you're trying to get done in the scene.
100%. I mean, both ways. As an actor too, you got to learn. You learn how to deal with different types of directors and give them what they want and satisfy yourself at the same time. When you're not as skilled, when you're learning, it's harder to do that. I got fired from my very first professional job. I was 21. I had been studying for a long time. I'd been auditioning, never got anything. I get a play, and I was a lead in a play off-Broadway, but it got a lot of attention because it was based on a true story. And I got fired after the opening weekend because I didn't respect the director. I thought I didn't think he knew what he was doing, and I didn't know how to give him what he needed and still do my own thing. I wasn't skilled enough yet, so they fired me. Oof. It was devastating.
But a lot of like, I work with Clint Eastwood a few times, and it's with the casting. He's relying on you. That's why he cast you. So a lot of directors, even big ones, they don't even give you any direction. They hired
And that's
you.
okay.
You did
Yeah,
your
I don't
thing.
mind that.
Yeah, absolutely. You did your thing, and now go ahead, take it away. I mean,
Right.
you know,
They trust you.
and it's a lot with, like, he believes it's a lot with the casting. Michael directed me in a movie that he wrote. It couldn't have been better. Couldn't
What
have
movie
been,
is this?
Called The Hungry Ghost, a very very indie movie we did in New York in 2008, and Steve was one of the leads.
And it was great. I mean, you know, it was
What was
all
it
New
about?
York actors, and what's that?
What was it about?
You know, 5 people that are fucking lost. Their life is lost. I played a guy that was a radio
Late
DJ.
night radio host.
That's a coke guy and drunk.
You
and
could be
he-
a great radio DJ with that voice.
problem with his kids. But it was great. We rehearsed at the time he had a theater. We rehearsed because we didn't have a lot of money at times. We rehearsed. We got out on the street. We did it. And Michael was terrific. He knows what he wants. I mean, that's the biggest mistake a director can make. If they're hesitant, you know, they got to know what they want before they come over and talk to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a guy hemming and hawing. You know, it's like, what the fuck? But talking about line reading, there was an actor, a Broadway guy that did The Sopranos, a small role. And it was in a scene with me and Uncle Junior and this guy. And they were actually giving him line readings. He was a Broadway actor, and he wasn't getting it. And they wind up dubbing his voice.
Oh,
They dubbed his voice.
Did they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name. When we get to the episode, I'll tell you. But
that's insane.
yeah. But you know what else happened on the show numerous times? Like I did a scene with the rapper Fabulous, and he was great. There was a scene where I shot the guy in the ass. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. All right. I'm supposed to shoot him in the thigh because I'm a marksman and I get money from him, and I shoot him in the ass by mistake. But I shot it with Fabulous, and then a few weeks later they said, listen, you got to reshoot that scene. So right away I go, well, I fucked up. No, they changed Fabulous to Tretch, naughty by nature.
Yeah.
Good guy. They said he looked too young. They just replaced him. They had the budget and the time, and they just brought in another actor. And they would rewrite scenes. If they didn't like the scene after they saw it, they would rewrite it. And numerous times they brought in other actors. There's 2 different FBI agents. Fairuza Balk, you know that actress?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She was at the end of episode season 3 or something. She never came back. Not only did they took her off the DVD. So unless you taped it, you know, like if you taped it back
What,
then.
they reshot her scenes?
They
Another
reshot
actor?
her scenes even for the DVD.
Wow.
So unless she has a VHS of it somewhere, she's non-existent.
That's crazy because she's a really good actress too.
No, it wasn't. It probably wasn't anything to do with that. It was they didn't make a deal with her. Maybe she was busy making a movie. I'm not saying it was.
She's
like,
got a huge mouth.
yeah.
Like
She
when
was.
She smiles. She has this huge.
She was
huge
in
teeth.
Waterboy. Waterboy.
Yeah, that's right. She was great in that.
Really?
I
If
just
you
watched
said-
that. Me and my family went on because we were stayed at home for the COVID thing. We had movie night every night. We went on an Adam Sandler binge.
It's funny.
We watched everything. Underrated fucking funny movies.
That's a funny movie. The Wedding Singer
man.
is
The
a funny
Zohan
movie.
is hilarious.
funny.
That's
That
a
is
funny to
great
me.
movie.
They're
It's
brushing
so-
your teeth with hummus. And so,
Lanny Kazan. He's banging Lanny
that's
Kazan.
a really funny movie. Yeah.
It's a very
And
funny
naked,
movie, man.
cooking,
Yeah.
barbecuing naked.
Yes,
and
with the
stuff.
fish.
And Nick is very funny.
Oh yeah,
Nick
he's
Swartzen.
great.
Funny,
Yeah.
funny,
Oh,
funny.
Nick is awesome. I love Nick. Yeah.
Who was the comics that inspired you to be a comedian? Or were they?
Prior first, my parents took me to see Live in the Sunset Strip in the movie theater when I was like 15.
He was brilliant.
Oh.
Yeah.
Beyond.
You never met him?
Yeah, I did. I worked with him. I worked with him 5 weeks in a row, actually.
Wow.
Towards the end of his life, it was very odd for me because that was what really got me interested in stand up. Because in that movie theater, thinking I'd never really seen stand up before. I don't think. You know, maybe I'd seen it on the Tonight Show or something like that, but I'd never really seen that. And in this movie theater, here I am crying, laughing at this guy that was just talking. And I was like, I can't believe he's just talking. because if I had seen a funny movie, it was funny, but it was never that funny. I remember you said something about Mary. You had just seen something about Mary, and we were talking, and you go, "It's like a comic killing." I'll never forget you said that. You're like, it's so funny, it was like a comic killing. That was the feeling that I got watching Pryor. I was like, I can't believe how funny this guy is. Just talking, like I didn't know you could do that. I mean,
and you worked with him at the Comedy Store?
Worked with him at the Comedy Store towards the end of his life, where he was really sick, and they used to have to crank the volume up on the microphone like really loud. He would get on stage, and he was on all kinds of medication because he was sick, and he had to sit down because he literally couldn't stand up. They used to carry him to the stage. Wow. So they'd introduce him and they'd walk him through the crowd, and I worked with him for 5 weeks. I was on after him every night. Every night it was Pryor than me. Because, Mitzi Shore, who owned the Comedy Store, when she had a young comic that she liked, she would shove you after anybody was any good. So if Martin Lawrence was on, I was on after him. If Richard Pryor was on, I was on after him.
So you auditioned? Did you audition for the Improv and Comedy Store?
No, I didn't have to. You didn't have to audition for the Improv. The Improv, you just, if you had TV credits and stuff like that, they'd give you spots.
But that was later on. But at the beginning, when you first got to L.A.
No, when I first got out of here, I had a TV show. I was on a show called Hardball.
Oh, that's right. That's right. With Mike Starr.
Exactly, Mike Starr. Shout out to Mike. And that got canceled, and then I got on news radio right afterwards. So the whole time that I was out here, I was on a sitcom. And so the Improv, I could just get spots. But I wanted to be at the store. The store was Mecca.
Did you ever see that movie, Some Kind of Hero, with Richard Pryor?
Yes.
And he plays like I think it's about a Vietnam vet or something. It's
kind
of a drama. I think
decades.
It's a drama. And he's great. He was a great actor.
Oh, he was great in everything. He was great in that. What was that movie that they did about his life story? Where he
JoJo
Dancer.
Oh, right.
That
was really good.
Yeah, that was basically a drama.
That's right.
That was good. He's the GOAT, in my opinion. I mean, there's like Lenny Bruce, who started it all off. And then there's Kinison, who was probably like the funniest of all time for like 2 years before he burnt out. But then Pryor is the guy, when you look at like the guy who changed comedy. He made comedy a personal thing. He made comedy like an honest, personal thing.
He was the first one, you think?
Well, yeah, he took what Lenny Bruce was doing and he just did it a little bit better. Lenny Bruce opened the door, though. Lenny Bruce was the guy who got arrested for it. Lenny Bruce was the guy who really changed perceptions when in the 50s and the 60s, what he was doing was revolutionary. There was no one that was doing anything like
Pushing
that.
all those boundaries.
Yeah, everyone else was telling jokes, like two Jews walking to a bar, they buy it, but I'm bumped.
Well, sure, that was what and they all shared each other's jokes. It was Catskill Comics,
exactly.
And Ed Sullivan, and that's what all that was.
But he was pointing out hypocrisy in society and political things and things about language.
Yes, language. Yeah,
but even he started out as an impressionist.
Yes, yeah, yeah. He just decided to expand the medium, and then he got more and more famous from doing that, and then it more became social commentary that was actually funny, rather than just what we had thought of as a stand-up comedian before that. And then, of course, Carlin took it from there, and then I think Pryor did it better than anybody else. He really opened the door for so many other comedians.
And he made it personal.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he like almost confessional and introspective.
And vulnerable.
And vulnerable. As an actor, he brought that too.
Yeah,
vulnerability.
Yeah, in everything he did. I mean, he was fucking.
They destroyed Lenny Bruce. They just destroyed him.
Yep.
The
lawsuits and
the lawsuits at the end. That's what he was actually reading on stage.
He had big problems with drugs.
Well, he was a heroin addict, but they just destroyed him on top of it. I mean, they were arresting him for cursing.
Yeah.
If you think about that now.
Yeah.
Have
you seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, the Amazon series? It's really good.
Yeah, and the guy that plays Lenny Bruce is good.
He's really good.
Who is it? Who's that?
I don't know the actor's name. He's really good.
Jamie will find out. But the way they portray him is very close to how he really was.
Yeah.
And that he was very loved by people that would come to see him, and then the cops would literally drag him off stage.
Yeah. What do you think of her stand-up on the show?
Well, in the beginning, I think it was pretty good. It seemed like a funny broad who was kind of drunk, who went on stage, who was hilarious and got laughs. It's just hard to recreate stand-up if you don't do stand-up.
Yeah, that's very hard. But that's what I was talking about as a comedic actor.
There he is.
He's
Luke
very good.
Kirby.
Very good.
Yeah.
He even looks like him there.
Yeah. He's very good.
He was also on The Deuce. He played a good role on The Deuce. On HBO. The one thing about Mrs. Maisel, everything is she's like on all the time.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. It's like always a funny. You never saw the show?
No, I haven't seen
It's a good show, but it's always like a funny quip. Everything. You ask if she wants coffee, it's a funny joke. It's like a comic that's always on, right?
It's annoying.
You got those fucking guys.
I got to the third season. The third season, it seemed like it was a little manufactured. Like there's this big scene where she's in front of a USO tour overseas, and these guys are laughing, and she's just laughing at everything. And it's like, so as a comic, I'm like, this isn't real. This isn't real. This is like a kung fu scene where a guy's kicking guys through windows. Wah! It's like there's something about it. Like I can't relate to this anymore. You've taken this into fiction. But I think the beginning of it was really good.
Joe, have you ever just ate it on stage?
Oh yeah.
I don't mean at the beginning.
Oh, I ate shit. Yeah, of course. Well, this is one thing. I write a new act every 2 years. So I do a Netflix special or a Comedy Central special. I throw all that stuff out and I start all over again. And you're going to have some rough sets. Yeah, I eat shit. And then, maybe you have a heckler, you get mad at the heckler, and you eat shit.
Do you have go-to heckler, shut up heckler lines?
I mean, you can do that, but really it's all in what's happening in the moment. They're so different. That it's like, do you have a go-to spice for your food? Well, it really depends on what you're eating.
What you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, there's...
Belza worked at Belza worked at the Riv for me.
I know what you're gonna say.
And a lady was heckling him, and he says, "Lady, the only time you should open your mouth is to switch dicks." Do you remember the comic Rick Reynolds?
No.
Rick Reynolds was hot stuff. He had a one-man show. He was the beginning of that. Played the improvs like I'm going in the 90s. And he had this, I forget the name of it. Maybe, I don't know what the name of it is. Rick Reynolds, he was a San Francisco guy. And he was working, And he had a development deal and I think even a sitcom for a short time. And he had an act. And the act was kind of like, he kind of came off like a studious guy. And then he would say, would you sleep with me for $1? You tell a girl, how about for $5? Then, of course, for $1 million, would you go with me? And, of course, she says, you're a whore. So he tells he does the joke. He gets off stage. Her boyfriend comes back and punches him in the back of the head, right at the Riviera. Right? And then 2 nights later, a guy's heckling him. He tells the guy, if you don't shut up, I'm going to leave. That's what he tells the guy. That's how he dealt with the heckling. And the fucking guy kept heckling and he walked off the stage. Yeah. And I was fucking pissed off at him.
That seems like a very odd approach.
Yeah. He said, one more time, and I swear I'm out of here.
Basically giving up all your power to the heckler.
Yeah, that's probably why he's not around anymore.
Yeah, but he
Bad
was
strategy.
He in the 90s, he had this one-man show, maybe late 80s, development deal, big management,
Do you remember that guy who had he had a show called Defending the Caveman?
Oh yeah, Rick Becker.
Yeah, I never saw it, but a lot of people did see it, and they told me that he did it for a while, and then he sold the show, and someone else was doing it.
Oh, yeah, numerous people. He did it in Vegas. There was a guy who did it for years.
I think the guy, what the fuck's his name? The bald guy who's in The Thing. He was on The Shield.
Oh, Michael...
Chiklis?
Chiklis, yeah.
He
did it for a while.
Yeah.
That's a one-man show?
Yeah. I was like,
it was
that's
about
so
women
weird.
and men.
Yeah.
It went to Broadway.
Yeah.
He made a fortune.
It was basically, though, like stock premises of stand-up.
I didn't see it.
That's what it was explained to me. Someone said, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
But it became
this guy's making millions.
All over the world. All over the world.
And it's basically like, standard premises. Men are like this, but women are like that. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like real standard shit that if you saw a road act doing, you would go, oh, this guy's kind of a hack. But then, meanwhile, this guy's doing it as a one-man show, and it's a theatrical production, so it's huge. I don't know if that's an accurate assessment of it. That's what it was explained to me.
But he also hired, so he was kind of a, not fat, but kind of a, chunky kind of guy. And the other guys that filled in were all like that, body
weird is
size,
that, though?
like
Someone
the same
doing your
body.
act.
It wasn't a skinny, good-looking guy. They were all like kind of the same.
Imagine if Dom Irrera did that. Like if you have some guy playing Dom
Well,
Irrera.
didn't Gallagher do it?
Gallagher did it with his twin brother, though.
And then he sued the brother, right?
Yeah, maybe not his twin, but it's his brother.
And they look alike.
Yes, who's Gallagher too. And then after a while, he got tired of Gallagher too doing his act. Like, hey, give me my fucking act back. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And so then they were fighting.
I never knew that.
Yes, Gallagher.
And he was
too.
touring and doing.
Oh, yeah, he
just-
looked like Gallagher. You
He
couldn't
looked
really
like
tell.
a clone Gallagher, but something went wrong in the process. Like something was like slightly off. Like if you were married to him and you came home one day and you're like, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" He'd be like, "You're not my husband. What is happening here?"
Dom Herrera, too.
That is wild.
There should be Dom Herreras all over the country. We'll send them
Yes.
out. Headline
Yeah,
everywhere.
There's Gallagher
Look,
too.
which one's which?
I don't know which one's which.
I'd say on the right.
I think that's on the right is two. So the guy on the right, he had to grow his fucking hair the same way and wear the same clothes and.
What
do the
was he?
same
Was
thing.
one better than the other? Or was
I never
basically the
saw
same
it.
thing?
I'd like to see a review.
Have
of
you
the
had Gallagher
performance.
on the
No,
show?
I haven't. No. I've heard him on Stern before though. He's an interesting guy. Very opinionated.
He, but I got to tell you, he took that prop
That's
thing to
very
another level.
Yes, he did.
Well, him between like Carrot Top, I say just he I don't want to say ruined the genre of prop comics, but he defined it to the point where no one else can be a prop comic anymore. When I was starting out in '88, there was prop comics. There was all these guys. Like some guys would have music, some guys would have props. There was some guys had a puppet. They'd go on
Yeah.
stage with a puppet. That was a normal thing. But there's no fucking prop comics anymore.
Oh, no?
Go down to the Comedy Store on a Monday night. You don't see a single prop comic. They don't exist.
No more ventriloquists?
That's rare too. I mean, I don't know who. I guess it was what's
Jeff
his name?
Dunham.
Jeff Dunham. Jeff Dunham is like
He's
the
the-
premier puppet guy.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer puppet guy.
He used to work for me at the Riv.
Did you ever have Otto and George in?
Sure.
He's the best.
He was a great
He
guy.
was
but
a puppet act.
He
ventriloquist?
he had the dirtiest puppet. The puppet would say the most fucked up shit, and then he would go, "How can you say that?"
It
He would
was
turn to the puppet.
horrifying. And he worked for me a lot. Remember we used to, the show you did
Yeah,
at the
the
Riv?
dirty show.
It was the extreme comedy,
Yes.
XXX. So I had all these filthy guys. Matter of fact, I was talking to Nick DiPaolo. Nick did it,
There he is. There's Otto and George.
There's Otto and George.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's so funny.
Someone actually ran on stage at the at Dangerfields and stabbed the puppet one time.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were so mad. Yeah, they were so mad at the
And
puppet.
it's so horrifying. Look how scary that is.
yeah, crazy eyebrows.
great.
And
But-
when he would fucking the eyebrows would go up when he was hitting his punchlines.
And it's Otto and George, and you'd think that the puppet's name would be Otto, but that's George.
yeah, puppet is George.
But Otto, he worked for me a bunch of times, and he had problems, and he would disappear.
Oh, he was
I
crazy.
couldn't find him. He was on the
It's
west.
obvious he has problems.
He was
was a
on the
wild
west
man.
side
Look
of
at what
town,
he
and
He was
he
a wild
died
man.
young.
He
died
died
young,
young, yeah.
but he did Letterman. He started finally after so many years getting some recognition.
I
and
wish he was around now so we could introduce him through podcasts. I think if he was around now, if I could get him on a podcast and show people who he is, much like Joey Diaz, much like a lot of these guys, you're not going to understand who they are through a traditional format, like a regular television format. You're going to get a shadow of what they really are. You got to see. Like Otto was a wild guy who did these crazy fucking these crazy road shows. We did those Bob Gonzo gigs together in Jersey, and we did Dangerfields for those. We did prom shows. Prom shows are the fucking worst thing a comic could ever do because what they do is they take these 17 and 18-year-old kids. They're at their prom.
I went to one.
You went to one? They don't change the audience. So the audience, they just keep shoving new kids in there and hope the older kids leave. So you'll start working. You might have a 7 o'clock show, and you don't get out of there till like 2, 3 in the morning. Sometimes you get out of there, it's just starting to turn daylight, and they're just pumping kids in. So they would tell you, don't change your act. We want them to be bored of your act so that they leave. We get new kids.
Who was that? That Australian guy, Tony? What was the big guy?
It was it was Scottish. It was-
Scottish guy.
Yeah. Fuck. What was his name?
Not Tony.
God damn, it wasn't Tony.
Tony was Rodney's partner.
He was funnier than most of the comedians. The big Scottish powerlifter guy. he would lift weights with he would take cement buckets like a bucket and fill it with cement, and he would do a lot of his workouts just lifting these buckets filled with cement. One of the strongest fucking guys I've ever seen in my life. He was built like a bowling ball with a head on the top of it.
He was the manager?
No, he was like a doorman / maitre d' / bouncer.
Yeah.
So if anybody did anything wrong, he was the guy that came in and I saw him pick a kid up by his neck. Literally grab him by his neck and lift him up in the air. And the kid's feet were dangling. He's just trying to like,
Wow.
Yeah.
Dangerfield's, I went there many years ago in the 70s, and I saw David Fry. You know David Fry?
No.
He used to do Nixon. He was 5'3", and he would do fucking Nixon. He headlined Caesar's Palace.
Really?
Look him up, David
Okay.
Fry. And he wound up moving to Vegas, and he was Sullivan all the time, and he did Nixon. He was great, really short, right? And he was always lonely, and he was with Randy Credico. You know Randy
I remember.
Credico.
Yeah,
So
political
Randy
guy.
Credico was an impressionist, the two of them. And
Wait, the guy with Roger Stone? That
yeah,
guy?
Randy used to work for me at the Riv.
He was a comedian?
Yeah, he's a stand-up impressionist. He did Johnny Carson. I saw him on Carson. There's David Fry. He's 5'3". They go over. They're down in Times Square. It's 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. There's a hooker on the corner. They pull up. They said, "How much for a blowjob?" The girl is looking in. She's looking in the car. "How much to fuck you?" She went, "I don't fuck midgets." Boom! He was lost for the night. He was depressed for 2 fucking months, David Fry. He was a bad alcoholic. And he worked at the Riv when we first opened, right? He worked. It was like his big comeback because he was living in Vegas. He used to come around the club, and he did the first show, wore a tuxedo. And between shows, he got bombed, and Bud Freeman said, "Go and get him." You know, we gave him a chance, and he just couldn't even work. He was a poor guy, and he passed away a few years ago. But yeah, he was headline Caesar's Palace, a real comic.
Wow.
But very depressed, never married. He would say, "Life is hard, life is hard, life is hard."
There's a lot of those stereotype comics, and you would hear about them more back in the day than now, that were never happy. They would go on stage, they would get laughs in the crowd, and then they'd be depressed for the rest of the night.
Hey, you know, that kind of up comic, I mean, there was a lot more work then, I think.
I don't know.
You know?
There's a lot
I
of work
mean,
now.
You had Catskills, you had nightclubs in New York, Chicago, you know. I mean, there was a lot. TV paid more money then. You didn't get scale. I think if you did a variety show then, you got real money. You know, like Flip Wilson's show or Sonny and Cher, and there was a comic on. I think there was, you know.
Flip Wilson show.
Remember
Boy.
Flip Wilson? Oh, look, I'm old. I told you I was old. I'm an old man.
Flip Wilson, Sonny and Cher.
I love those shows.
I remember those shows. Yeah.
You know, all those variety shows in the, in the 70s. I mean, that was good stuff.
What happened to variety shows?
I don't think people like them anymore. I don't know. They short attention spans. I guess that's the new American Idol and The Voice and shit. That's
Sorta. But the variety shows would have like legitimate famous acts come on.
yeah, singers.
Yeah.
Singers, comics. Then they
Yeah.
had the guy with the plates, spinning the
Magicians.
plates.
Yeah. They would,
Magicians.
they would do things.
Puppet,
Yeah.
ventriloquists.
Yeah.
Joe Rowe. Joe, that's what you got to do, Joe. Variety act. That's the next thing.
I can't. I do enough. This is it. It can't be a short attention span, because if that was the case, then podcasts wouldn't work. Because podcasts require the most attention span.
Now, do you? That's the one thing with our podcast too. A lot of younger people are discovering The Sopranos, and that was part of the reason we wanted to do one. There's kids that are in their late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
that age, and they're the podcast.
Yeah, and they were
world.
too young when
Yeah.
the show was on originally, but that's pretty cool because
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of shows don't get that kind of resurgence and new generation discovering it.
Well, it's the
stuff like
beautiful thing about our era, that you can stream shows and binge them. You
Yeah.
can do that with. Back in our day, like if you wanted to watch old episodes of fucking Starsky and Hutch, good luck.
Sure,
Where are you
absolutely.
gonna find them? Where are you going to find Dragnet? You had to wait for it to be on television. If you wanted to watch an older show, you had to wait for it, or you'd find it somewhere. Now, someone tells you about The Sopranos. Is it on Netflix?
No, it's on
HBO Max,
on
HBO to go,
HBO and
HBO,
Hulu too.
Go,
and
all
probably Apple TV as
Yeah,
well.
something
You
like
can probably
that.
buy it on
Amazon.
Apple TV,
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
So, but you just go right to that. Boom, you get started. I mean, and it instantly starts playing. I mean, it's amazing if you're a kid and you want to discover great old shows or great old films. I mean, you have instant access to them. You don't have to go anywhere.
Absolutely, But back then, only 11 million people had HBO.
Yeah.
Which is nothing. There's probably more people now watching the show.
Yeah.
People get together on Sunday nights, right? They have their parties and all that, and they would cook and have parties and dress up like the characters, and
It was harder to watch things. You had to go out and get a physical copy of. Like I remember, I moved into this house in 2002, and it had a theater, and I was like, oh my God, I made it. I got a fucking theater in my house. This is the shit. And I watched Apocalypse Now, the newly remastered version of Apocalypse Now.
Oh, the one with the added scenes that weren't in the French plantation. Oh, yeah, that was really cool.
I was just sitting back watching this thing going, this is amazing. And then you find out the history of the film. And then you find out that, like, literally it took like 7 years to make that film.
Yeah,
and Lawrence Fishburne's a teenager when he's in it.
Yeah.
It's just, fuck, what a movie that is.
Yeah, that's a good one.
look at his career.
Actually, Harvey Keitel was originally the Martin Sheen role, Willard, and
Really?
actually shot for a while. And
He got fired?
I think they felt he brought too much. Like Martin Sheen was more of a blank slate, like an everyman kind of. Harvey had a very strong personality, like New York kind of tough guy, and a lot more of a quirks to him.
Yeah.
And he wanted more of Martin Sheen was more of a reacting to all the other craziness around him, like Hopper and Frederick Forrest and even Fishburne and Brando, and he was kind of the center that just held it. And Harvey was more like a character.
That makes sense.
That's at least what I heard. But they shot. I think Harvey shot for at least a month, maybe more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That makes sense, though, because Harvey's such a powerful force.
Yeah.
Like, when I think of Harvey Keitel, I think of Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Fucking movie.
That's
Holy
a brilliant movie.
Shit.
Well, he did a series with him.
What did you do with him?
I did a series. The only series he ever did called Life on Mars. We did one season for ABC in 2009, and Harvey played the lieutenant. He played the lieutenant in that, and it was his first TV show.
He was good to work with?
Yeah, I worked with him before. I worked with him on Clockers. I had a couple of scenes with him in that, and then we did. I love Harvey. Harvey's a very hard worker, takes his work really, really seriously, and really good. I mean, Bad Lieutenant, he's incredible.
Brilliant.
And I think that might be his best work ever. And Dangerous Game. Did you ever see that? It's the same director, Abel Ferrara. It's with Madonna and James Russo. Harvey basically plays a version of Abel Ferrara and kind of a version of himself. And he plays a film director. He's really good.
I don't know if I saw that. I'd have to go look at that again.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
What did you think of the stand-up show on Showtime?
Which one? What was that called?
What do you mean?
It was the Jim
I'm
Carrey.
Dying Up Here?
Yeah. You didn't like it?
No, I thought it was flat.
Yeah, I kind of liked it. I mean, I like seeing
liked it
some of
because
the
a lot
guys.
of my good friends were in
Yeah,
it.
I'm sure.
I liked that. And I liked it because it was basically based on the store. But
Was
Now,
he a
Mitzi-
stand-up comedian, Jim Carrey?
Yes.
He was before
Yeah.
he started doing.
Yeah,
But Mitzi
Fridays.
didn't act like that, right?
I don't know. I didn't even get into it.
Oh, you
enough
didn't watch
to-
the show?
No.
Okay.
How did they have her act?
Like Impossible.
She was crazy. Yeah, she was
I
impossible.
met her a few times. She was nice to me because she came out with Paulie. Paulie worked at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So I met her a couple times. She was always very nice.
That's her on the wall.
Oh, is it? When she was
that
younger?
painting's
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
She was always very, very nice to me. But was she crazy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why she let the store become what it is. She basically wanted the lunatics to run the asylum. She wanted them to fight against each other. She also say if you and Michael had a problem with each other, she put you on back to back. She'd have Michael bring you up.
Really?
If you were dating, if a comic was dating another comic, she'd have them back to back. If they broke up, back
And it
to
was
back.
this was all
Orchestrated. Yeah.
Really?
Well, she had a theory about comedy. She wanted people to be put into difficult situations. That's why I told you when I was 27 and, just sort of getting my feet under me, she had me going after Richard Pryor every fucking night and Martin Lawrence. She liked you. She'd throw you to the wolves.
wow.
And she would laugh about it too. Like later on in life, I had a conversation with her and she was laughing. She was, I always knew where to point you. She thought it was funny. But it was also how she made you a good comic. She forced you to adapt to the moment. If you just go on, if you have a easy opening act who does get some laughs but doesn't kill too hard, and you go on this cushy spot in the middle, everything's soft and easy, you don't get challenged, you don't grow. And she wanted you to grow. She wanted you to face hardship. She wanted you to fucking sink or swim, bitch. This is the Comedy Store, and that's how she treated it.
But the store, which was the mecca, of course, and then didn't it tail off a little bit? And then when you and Joey Diaz and all you guys started coming back, now it's the spot.
Yeah.
Or, before the pandemic. Anyway, that's the spot in the whole United States, right?
Well, when I came back in 2014, we had already been talking about it for so long on the podcast that it kind of had a little bit of a ramp up before then. But then when I came back and we were basically telling everybody, hey, I'm at the store. We're there. 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
It just became mobbed again. I mean, it was mobbed every fucking night. It was sold out hundreds of days in a row, 3 shows, one in the original room, big show in the main room, belly room, just packed every night.
Yeah.
You couldn't get in there.
They had the, they were at the Dunes. Mm-hmm. They were before the Improv, and there was like 5 headliners, they would have like Dom and, Kinnison, Mitchell Walters, and they were at the Dunes Hotel in the big room. And Mitzi four-walled that. So she made all the money. And she was very smart, obviously a smart businesswoman.
Yeah.
She didn't go for the, guaranteed money. She took a shot. And for years, that was the spot to be.
When did that place go under? That was before my time.
And then I would say in the 90s, early 90s, they knocked the Dunes down. But I think it started in 84. The Improv opened in 86. And they would have 5 headliners, Johnny Dark, all the headliners from the Comedy Store. Jimmy Walker,
Well, Vegas is making a comeback when it comes to comedy. Like there's clubs.
There's a lot of clubs, yeah.
Yeah, there's clubs. Like Jimmy Kimmel's got a club there now. And then there's
the Comedy Cellar, Laugh Factory. Brad Garrett has a thing.
The Brad Garrett place is great. It's like it's a good place for not just for people that are doing big places, but for comics, guys, road guys who are just
Hey, you when you did Dice's show, you saw Rich Little.
Yeah, we all went. I was shooting.
He's playing in the Laugh Factory.
At the Tropicana, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dice does residencies there. Like he'll be there for months at a time.
At the Laugh Factory.
I was just there in Vegas for the UFC 2 weeks ago, and they're doing a UFC without a crowd. It's very strange. We're at the Apex Center, which is it's an arena that the UFC built. It's like,
where is it?
It's next to the UFC Performance Institute. It's off the Strip. And they built this very small arena. So they do a series of other shows besides just the big UFC pay-per-views. They do this thing called the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series, where they have like up-and-coming up-and-coming fighters compete, and then they do it in this small place with a very small crowd, and like 1,000, 1,200 people. But now there's no crowd, because it's the only way you could do the thing. So as I'm driving to the Apex Center, I'm passing the Tropicana, and they've got Dice up on the billboard for February. So it's like long past shows, March, shit like that. They don't even take it down. They haven't even, because everything's been shut down. All the casinos have been shut down.
Well, now they're opening. So did you have a hotel to stay in?
No, I didn't even. I flew in the day of the fights. I flew out that night.
Yesterday, I watched a soccer game, the German league, and they had no fans, but they had recording of the fans.
Oh, that's so weird.
And they sing, the fans in Europe sing chants to the team. They had that going on, but there's nobody in the audience. Are they going to do that for UFC?
No, it's just silent.
No recording of cheers and all that.
The brilliant part about it being silent is that you can hear the people breathing. You can hear them talking shit to each other, like, hey, pussy, how you feeling? Like, they talk shit to each other when they're beating each other up. Yeah. You can hear the body blows. You can hear the wheezing when they're getting hurt. You can hear them heavy breathing when they're tired. Yeah. Like, there's so much more depth to it when you don't have an audience. There's undeniable that the audience plays a big factor in the energy, but there's something to just being there. Like I was there for Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje in Florida. We did that in Jacksonville, and it was the same thing, no audience. But that was even weirder because it was a 15,000 seat arena, but there was no crowd. It was just these guys duking it out in this cavernous arena, and the octagon set up in the center of the arena, and all you hear is the cornermen giving advice, and then you hear them beating the shit out of each other.
Do you have to adjust anything you do different, or you just do your thing?
I didn't. No, I didn't adjust. You know, the only difference is the one in Vegas. They wouldn't let me interview the fighters in the ring after the fight, so I couldn't go into the octagon after the fight. I had to do it remotely, so I had a headset on. I'm looking at them through a screen. It was real weird.
Yeah,
that was. Weird.
And do you think UFC? That's why boxing's not popular anymore.
Boxing's pretty popular.
Not as it once was.
I think MMA is much more exciting, but I think the real big boxing fights are still very exciting, like Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, that kind of fight. Like this, those are still very exciting. Like anytime Canelo Alvarez fights, those are still very exciting fights. It's just it's not as multi-dimensional as MMA. When you watch a UFC fight and, you know, you're seeing head kicks and takedowns and guys
fucking
getting
too
strangled.
rough for me, man. It's fucking tough for me. That's tough.
Also, boxing
those are
started
legit
changing,
tough
too.
guys.
It wasn't as exciting. Even before MMA got popular, but like the heavyweight division, which used to be for years, so exciting, you know.
Well, it comes in waves. You know, Deontay Wilder was just starting to become like the resurgence of the heavyweight division because he was smashing and knocking everybody out. And then they had that epic fight with him and Tyson Fury, and they knocked Tyson Fury down twice and almost knocked him out in the 12th round. But then Tyson came back in that round, and then the fight was declared a draw.
That was a good one.
It was a great fight. And then Tyson Fury came back and beat the fuck out of him in the rematch. And when that happened, everyone was like, Jesus Christ. Now American heavyweights, like that was a big American heavyweight loss, right? And in America, there's something about, we don't give a fuck about heavyweights from other countries. Like when Vladimir Klitschko, like you would think like the whole thing was like a white guy as a heavyweight champion would be the craziest shit ever.
Yeah.
Well, Vladimir Klitschko was the heavyweight champion for years. Nobody gave a fuck.
That's what I'm saying.
Because he was Russian.
You know, in the I used to go to a lot of fights when I lived in Vegas in the 80s. I was at the Hearns Hagler, a couple of them.
Woo.
I was at Mancini when he killed Dooku Kim.
Oh, you were there
I
for
was
that?
at that fight.
That was the outside fight, right?
Yes. I was at Hearns Hagler. I was at the Cooney Holmes.
Oh, wow.
$100 seat. Guy tipped me. I was a doorman at Paul Anka's club, a bouncer. Guy gave me a $100 ticket. I was all the way to tippy top at Caesars in the parking lot.
Wow.
That was the arena. I was at Arguello Pryor.
Arguello. Yeah, Alexis Arguello.
Alexis Arguello Pryor.
Wow. That's a
I was at
classic.
Tyson's first fight when he came out of jail.
Oh, wow.
And he beat the shit out of the
Peter
Irish
McNeely.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a whole bunch of them, and then they would have Saturday afternoons at the Showboat on the outside of town. I would go to a lot of those with great fights. Then they had Wednesday night fights at. It was a Silver Slipper where the Mirage is. You know, I used to go back then. I haven't been to a fight in years.
They used to have a lot of fights at the Orleans, too, right?
Orleans, that was later on. Yeah, later on.
Later on.
But the Silver Slipper was just a shithole local place.
There's a lot of those in Vegas.
And yeah, a local place, and they would have these great fighters. They would come in from L.A. and Top Rank was a big deal then, and Aram's been around, forever.
Ali came to the set one day in Sopranos. Visited. Wow. He was a fan of the show, and his manager contacted my manager, and I met him in front of the studio and brought him onto the set, and nobody knew he was coming. And Gandolfini was like in bed. He was doing when he was in the coma. It was all that stuff. And he was like taking a nap between takes, and I brought Ali, and the whole crew just like froze. And then I brought him up to the bed, and I tapped Jim. Jim turned around, looked up, he went, "Holy shit!" And he hung out the whole day, man. Took pictures.
Wow.
Every crew, people gave him a standing ovation. People were crying. It was crazy.
Wow.
He was such a star and such an iconic figure that my parents, who were hippies, they didn't give a fuck about fighting. But when he fought Spinks in the rematch, they made us watch it. We were living in San Francisco, and we're like, "You have to watch this. Muhammad Ali is fighting Leon Spinks. He's gonna get his title back." Like, it was a big deal because he wasn't just a boxer. Like, it's hard for people to realize that now in retrospect. But when I was a kid, during the Vietnam War, he was also a symbol of the resistance to this unjust war that we didn't want to be a part of. He's a guy who lost 3 years of his career because he wouldn't fight in the war. And so they stripped him of his title in his prime. Like, he beat Cleveland Big Cat Williams, probably the finest performance of his young career. And then for 3 years, he doesn't do shit until he comes back. And, you know, he transcended sports.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, God, yeah.
All over the world.
All over the world.
And he got his due, I think. Though, you know what I mean? He's recognized as that guy.
Yeah.
You know, it finally happened. It took a while, but
Look at that.
oh, there you go. That must have been on the set. Yeah, there's the hospital bed behind it.
Wow, that's crazy.
You know,
that was the day.
you can't make up some bullshit here. They get right on you.
That's good.
That is
Jamie
crazy.
gets right on your ass. They fucking come up with the goods.
He was also a cautionary tale for boxers. You know, if you think that getting hit in the head has no consequences, when, you know, towards the end of his life, it was very hard to watch.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he wasn't talking that much, but he was very present. Like,
Yeah.
he was with it. He just wasn't.
Yeah,
verbal that much,
neurologically, he wasn't capable of really speaking anymore.
Well, I think Leon Spinks also, right?
Yeah, everyone. Joe Frazier towards the end of his career was
Yeah.
horrible to watch him and listen to him. The only one who's avoided that is George Foreman.
Foreman just,
To this day, George Foreman speaks great. He sounds normal, which is crazy. It's
And
hard
what
to
about
imagine.
Holyfield?
Holyfield's fighting again. Do you know that?
No way.
Yes, Holyfield's been training, and he actually looks great. You know, with hormone replacement therapy, they just juice him up with testosterone and growth hormone and fucking get him on a good diet. And next thing you know, he's hitting the bag and looking great. And I think they're trying to set up a Tyson Holyfield rematch.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That would be something.
How old is
Look at him.
Holyfield?
Holyfield's older than Tyson. I think Tyson's 53, and I think Holyfield's 56.
That would be something. They'll all get a huge payday because I think Holyfield was broke too, right?
They're both broke. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Tyson's broke
Has
anymore.
Tyson been
because
on the
Tyson's-
show?
Yes. And Holyfield. Both guys have been on.
Oh, they've both been on the show.
Tyson's got that Tyson Ranch, where he's basically a weed salesman now. He's got this crazy ranch that he's a part of, Tyson Ranch. They grow spectacular weed. That box over in the corner, that gold box, that's a Tyson weed ranch box that he gifted me. And he's got this whole like entertainment venue there. They're going to do shows there. I just think something happened, and he just decided. He even said on the podcast, "I don't even want to work out." He was like, "Because I don't want to reignite my ego." And then something fucking lit a fire under him, and the next thing you know, there's these videos that got resurfaced of him hitting the pads, and looks fucking. Have you seen it?
I did see it.
He looks
I
fucking
would not
phenomenal.
fuck her. It's amazing. And I tell you what, now that would be a huge,
Huge.
all over the world. That would be.
Take my money. Take my money.
That would be something.
They probably do it in like Saudi Arabia.
I
or
hope
something
they
like
do
that.
it. I hope they do it.
Why not?
There's interest in that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Where's Tyson's ranch at?
It's in California, like towards like the Palm Desert area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because he lived in Vegas for a lot of years.
Yeah.
He used to play basketball. There was a place. He's the worst basketball player I've ever seen. I'm not kidding you. Terrible. Just
Well,
terrible.
you've never seen me play.
Oh, okay, maybe you. And he used to play. There was a place called the Sporting House behind the Stardust, and like everyone played there, every celebrity. It was like a pool and racquetball, all that shit. And he would come and play. I would never fucking dare say a word to him, but he used to try to play a lot
You
of
played
guys.
against him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really?
I played in college, and all the guys from UNLV would play. That was like 100 pounds ago. I could play. Tyson was just, that's not his thing.
No. What I just found it really amazing that he decided at 53 he just wanted to fight again, and he said he's going to do some exhibitions, and that was the thought process behind it. Some like 5-round exhibitions or something like that. But it seems like he really wants to fight.
Wow.
I think as the process has gone on, and he's gotten better and better shape, and now he's shredded.
Look, jeez. And he's got a podcast, right?
Yeah. He's a really interesting guy.
And he did a one-man show?
Yeah. He did his one-man show for a while.
Spike Lee directed.
This guy who's holding the pads for him is Rafael Cordero. Rafael Cordero is the lead trainer at King's MMA. He's a very famous MMA trainer, like one of the best striking trainers in the sport. Yeah, so he's working with a great guy, but it's interesting that he chose to work with an MMA guy too. That's really interesting. Cordeiro comes from this place in Curitiba, Brazil, called Shoot the Box. It's a very famous MMA camp, famous for the most ferocious fighters in Brazil. And he's been training with Tyson.
How long did Foreman fight for? Like till he was 50?
Well, he came back at 36, and everybody thought it was a joke. He came back 300 and something pounds, fat as fuck, and just looked like everybody's like, ah, ha, ha, what is he doing? Why is he doing this? And then slowly, as the fights went on, I mean, he never got ripped, but he got smaller and smaller. And then when he flatlined Jerry Cooney, everybody was like, holy fuck. Like, he's real. Like, this is real. And then when he knocked out Michael Moore, he became the oldest ever heavyweight champion. And I believe he was 45 when he knocked out Moore.
And then he's had his grills, and he made a lot of money.
He made a fucking killing on those grills. Those George Foreman grills.
Did you have one?
Yeah, I had one. Great for grilled chicken. Great. Cooks quick. Yeah, if you're like
You
a
didn't have
bachelor,
one?
they're
No.
great. It's actually a pretty goddamn good idea.
That's very funny.
I mean, it's not the best way. You know, if you want to cook the most delicious food, it's not the best
Now,
way
do you
to do
cook?
it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He what you win? Top chef?
Chopped. Celebrity tournament. Yeah.
So you're a chef.
No.
You just
I'm
like
a
cooking?
home chef, but I'm good at taking what's there and making something out of it, like
What is-
random stuff.
What are you into? Like, what do you like to cook?
I like Italian food. I like, out here, when you go to the farmer's market, there's all great stuff that's in season all the time. And I don't know. Soup. I'm really good at soups.
Really?
Yeah, whatever's. I mean, yeah, and I did it because my wife doesn't cook. She's a designer. She's good at building things. So, if I wanted to eat good, I had to learn how to cook because that's
So
not her
you
thing.
learned out of necessity and then really got into it?
Yeah. I got into it because I liked feeding I liked eating good. So, but I did this. I got offered to be on this show. I didn't even know the show. My kids were like, "No, you'd go and do this. You'll win if you do this show because you're good at like cooking with random ingredients." And it was 16 people. Like one day it was actors, 4 comedians, 4 athletes, and 4 like musicians. Then the winner from each day does the last day.
And how do they judge? Based on taste, presentation?
Yeah, three professionals judge: taste, presentation, creativity. And
What did you cook?
Well, I did. I used ice cream. I made a dessert. You have to make there's 3 rounds every day, right? So there's an appetizer round, a main course, and then a dessert. But for the desserts, I made ice cream, and I put like booze in the ice cream, and that got over really good. Like bourbon ice cream, vanilla bourbon, and
Nice.
tequila ice cream or something like that. But they give you weird shit. Like in one, you open this box, and these ingredients you have to use. Then you have a pantry with all the other like normal staples of all kinds of other vegetables and
Like what would be in the box?
fake blood, like candy blood, or like an unpopped dried corn on the cob, unpopped. Like it's like popcorn, but not off the cob. Squid. It was like that's kind of more of a normal thing.
So you have to have pretty well-rounded skills.
Yeah, and then it's timed. But then the thing I didn't think about, that's the hardest thing of it, is that there's cameras in your face the whole time, which is really hard. And then if they follow you around, because
so
you
it's
got to go
awkward.
move around the kitchen. Yeah, you're trying to
Yeah.
cook really fast and do something, and someone's right here with the camera, and
Right.
that kind of thing.
What the fuck do you do with unpopped corn?
Well, I knew what to do with it, which was good. You put it in a paper bag and then put it in the microwave. And then you got popcorn and you could do stuff with it. But I had bought it at the farmer's market like the week before just by chance.
Oh, wow.
So I knew what to do with it.
Yeah, I would have been fucked.
And
You
then
cook for your
win-
family?
You win
Yeah.
$50,000 for charity. That was the thing. But I wound up winning the last 2 people were me and Brandy Chastain. She was on the U.S. women's soccer team, not the recent one, but back then she took off her shirt and was wearing the sports bra. That was a famous photo or something. It was her and I were the 2 finalists.
Did she do
okay.
that after the show?
That's her move.
She
now.
lost.
She does that
didn't
with
do
everything.
that. Maybe if she won, she may.
Come in second.
No, you don't do that when you come in second.
Yeah, you got to do that for first place.
I did it.
You should have pulled your balls out.
So when you're doing this, when you're doing this, you get all these ingredients. Like what is your thought process? Like what kind of you get the squid and the popcorn. So you how much time are you getting, by the way?
I think for the appetizer you have 15 minutes.
15 minutes. So you open up the box. You got 15 minutes to make something.
You gotta make.
So you're looking at the squid. You're looking at the popcorn. You're like fuck.
Yeah, and you have to make. And then there's all different machines too. There's like a food processor. There's an ice cream machine. There's like a sous vide machine, which is you put stuff in the plastic, seal it, and then put it into like really hot water to cook it. That kind of shit. If you want to get adventurous.
Yeah. Wow.
You got to try one. Try one of these shows.
No.
Not for you?
No, not interested. No.
What do you make usually?
I cook a lot of meat. You know, I hunt, so I eat a lot of elk meat because if I shoot an elk, I get 400 pounds of meat.
And what does an elk taste like? Like steak?
No. It's more like venison, like a deer meat, but more delicious.
Is it the deer family, an elk?
Yes, it is the deer family. It's just a large deer, essentially a large mountain deer. Used to be a plains animal, but then when people started coming around and development, they started moving into the mountains. So now they're more of a mountain animal, but their real habitat is like grazing in plains. But it's an enormous animal, you know.
So that'll you
I eat a lot of that.
You get one deer. How long does it last you?
A year.
A year.
Yeah, one elk will but I give a lot of it away too. I have a bunch of commercial freezers in the back.
You leave them here?
That's an elk on the wall that I shot.
That was big.
Yeah, it's a big animal. I mean, that's probably a 900-pound animal, that one. That's a really big one. But some of them, you know, a good-sized Utah mountain elk, 800 pounds. So you quarter it up, you take the quarters
and the family likes it?
Yeah, they love it. Yeah, I got good at it. I know how to cook.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's a specific style of cooking, too, because you got to make sure you don't overcook it because it's very lean. It's not like a fatty piece of meat where you could kind of cook it longer. You cook it at a low heat, and you get it to a very specific internal temperature. Usually I like 125 degrees. Then I sear it on the outside of a very hot cast iron pan.
You cook?
I don't cook much, no.
No?
No. And I don't eat anything. You know, listen, I eat
Not
steak.
much or sometimes?
I could do something. I could make breakfast.
Like what? What's your
I
go-to?
could make fucking eggs. I could do something here if I got
Did
it.
you ever work
as
a cook? Like a short order cook? That kind of thing? You were a clam shucker, right?
I worked at Umberto's Clam House when I was in high school.
Did you
I
really?
used
What
to
is
be able
that?
to open clams. You know, when you would order, I used to be incredible at them.
Yeah?
Umberto's Clam House was where they killed Joe Gallo.
Oh, wow.
But they had a second one in Brooklyn where I grew up. And
No, but Gallo was killed on Mulberry Street.
Mulberry Street. There was one on Mulberry Street, Umberto's Clam House. It became famous after that. And then there was one in Brooklyn. And I was like 15, and we used to hang around on the corner, and they were building it. And there was like a guy, you know, we were all hanging around getting into fucking trouble, a bunch of kids. And he pulled out a big wad of money one day. I mean, like fucking hundreds. And he said, come here. Come on, get the fuck out of here. Take them to the movies. Wow. Back then, a movie was probably $1, you know? And I said, no, I want a job. I don't want your money. And I gave him he was Matty the Horse, which was a big wise guy's brother, Joe.
Wow.
And he kind of became like a mentor. You know, he was like a really good guy, gave me a job. I learned how to open clams, bake clams, clams for the linguine clams, raw clams on the half shell. You know, squeeze the lemon, the thing.
Did being around a lot of those guys when you were younger, did that help you when you were in The Sopranos? Did it help you, like, sort of, because you knew people like that?
Yeah, I grew up in that neighborhood. Like, where I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, at the time in the 70s, was all a big mob enclave, big. They were everywhere. And you didn't even know who they were. You know, like Joey's uncle. And this is a guy that I went to Little League with, wind up doing 25 years for murder. And they were just in the neighborhood. They were just, you know. So, yeah, I knew that world. I wasn't in that world. I went to college, but I knew that world. I know people. I have friends. You know, it was just that kind of a place, you know, where you just knew them. And somebody was just telling me 2 days ago, the guy owned a store, like an Italian deli, ravioli store, and I didn't know that he was a hitman. And he sent me an article. And he murdered
In
2 fucking
Bensonhurst?
guys in Coney Island, yeah. This guy named Pete. And I had no idea about that. And I said, really? He lived up the block from me. I didn't know that. Because, when you're a kid,
Yeah,
there was
sure.
he was coaching the baseball team. Then you found out later. I said, I didn't know the guy was a wise guy, like a real guy. And they were everywhere. They sold fireworks and, it was that whole thing. It was all Italian American, and it's changed now. It's not a little bit of that, but not as much as it used to
Well,
be.
when John Gotti was in his heyday, it was a very strange time for Italian Americans in New York because that whole area, like when he would have those block parties, and people, there was part of the people that would love him.
Oh,
and
yeah.
loved that.
To this day.
Yeah.
To this day, absolutely. I was gone. I left for Vegas in 79, 80. So I was gone through all them 80s. I was in Vegas with those wise guys.
You're right.
And I
Right.
knew some of them. We talked about it last time I was here. The
Yeah.
Pesci character, Tony Spilotro, who was always very nice to me. I mean, he was give me a 20 every
God.
time I saw
you're
him.
lucky.
He's all right in my book.
But it's interesting, like the Gotti character, him as a person was very strange. Do you know his grandson is a badass MMA fighter?
Oh, no, I didn't know
His
that.
grandson, John Gotti III, I think it is a legit MMA fighter. He's really fucking good. He's shredded. The kid looks
Wow.
like a fucking killer. I mean, he looks like an MMA fighter, covered in tattoos. I think he's undefeated, and I think he's got the majority of his fights, if not all of them, are by knockout.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy.
Listen, people love him. I never met John Gotti. He did a lot of good for a lot of people. Listen, you could only judge someone by how they treat you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because people go, well, how could you, blah, blah, blah. Hey, he was good to a lot of people.
He was known to be a good fighter too, John.
But John was? Yeah.
He can't, that's how he kind of came up. He was very good with his hands. He was, toe to toe, and was pretty nifty as a fighter. Yeah.
He was very public, though.
Yeah.
That was the thing that the old
Later,
guard
yeah,
didn't
when
like.
he became.
But he was flashy when he became the boss. He was like this guy that like made a big show of who he was, versus a lot of these guys like Vincent the Chin would act crazy and walk around in a bathrobe.
No,
They wanted to
Gotti was
keep
like
it-
Al Capone.
yeah.
But at least he enjoyed himself. These other guys, some of these other guys, he enjoyed himself. He was out to restaurants, good
Yeah.
look. He had movie star looks. At least he enjoyed himself. He had a nice family.
Yeah.
Some of these guys are holed up. They have millions of dollars and they live in like some shit 1-bedroom tenement.
Like
It's
Uncle Junior.
Like Uncle Junior.
Right.
He lives like this shitty life. He's getting hundreds of thousands
Right.
here and there. It's like, why are you living like that? You might as well go out and enjoy it, right?
Right. And they still get caught. Even the guys who live like shit, they still get caught.
Those old timers, those old timers used to just, I don't know what they did with the money.
Well, they were trying to avoid prosecution.
Yeah, but
Didn't work out.
almost every mobster, unfortunately, winds up dead or in jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Michael, did you grow up around that?
A little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit, but more. I got out of that area when I was in my teens, really, and was in the city, in the village and around actors and musicians and stuff like that.
Was that something that it always called to you, being an actor?
No, not really. I was gonna go into be a doctor or something like that. I was
Really?
always really good in school, but my father was a bus driver in the Bronx, and he started doing community theater when I was in high school. Like he was like 40, just one day starts acting in plays, which. Looking back, knowing what it takes, it's very courageous, somebody to do that. And so I always saw cool movies and even saw some theater in New York because my parents took me. But then in my last year of high school, I was like, well, what the hell? What do you really want to do? I mean, if you could do anything, I really literally asked myself that question. If you could do anything, what would it be? And I was like, I guess, I really didn't want to stay in school for 10 years either. Like, studying, I was kind of sick of that.
And then come out in debt.
Come out in debt, and I don't
That's
know.
the big one.
That's a big one.
It flavors the way they live their life.
Yeah,
They live their life starting out of the gate in their career, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
yeah, and not just doctors, right?
Yeah.
Even people who don't even go to grad school.
Sure.
Go through
Yeah.
that. That's really rough.
So you asked yourself that question, and
Yeah.
how'd you come up with acting?
Yeah, I started. I had some good teachers in high school who brought us to theater, and I was reading a lot of plays in high school in the library in my school, and just got into it more and more my last year or two of high school. I wasn't acting. I didn't do any acting then. And then after high school, I went to an acting school in New York and took a couple of classes there, and then stayed for a long time actually with with a teacher, and met a lot of people that I still work with today. Back then, a couple who were on The Sopranos actually.
Is live performance, is that your love, like theater?
It is. I mean, I love all of it. I mean, it's always about the specific project and the material and the people you're with, but doing it live is really special because, you're doing the whole story every night from beginning to end, right? And you're on stage for whatever 2 hours. It's that concentration and that commitment. Movies and television, as you know, is broken up into little bits throughout the day, and it's a different kind of concentration, but there is something special about being in front of an audience. It's different every night. The reactions are different every night, and there's an interplay that's very exciting.
So, do you still do it now? Do you go back and forth?
I haven't in a while. I mean, theater. I mean, I did. I hope to start doing it again soon. At one point, my wife and I built a theater, and we were producing new plays.
Where'd you build it?
West 29th Street, Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
I think we opened in 2003.
So when you say built the theater, like what was there before?
I was just like a raw space. I think it was a club at one point, and then literally my wife and my father-in-law built it.
Wow.
And it looked like a theater from like 100 years ago. It was beautiful.
How did you get the craftsmanship to where'd you get the people to do that kind of work?
My wife and my father-in-law were.
They did it all themselves?
They did a lot. I mean, there were a couple of people that they contract certain things out for, but a lot. He passed away, but he was a master carpenter. He was just brilliant, and my wife's really good.
How many seats was it?
75 seats. It was very intimate.
Wow, that's awesome.
And we did only new plays that had never been done, and we also had classes there, acting classes.
What year was this?
Between 2003 and like 2010.
So this is a real labor of love. It's not like you can make a lot of money off of 75
No, we
seats.
didn't make money. No, it actually wound up costing. I mean, that's why we went out of business after the economy collapsed. We lost a lot of our funding. We lost all the corporate funding pretty much. We had a few private, donors who really loved what we were doing. And I mean, I built the theater basically. I did a movie, kind of a not so good movie for Harvey Weinstein actually.
Oh wow!
And that money went and built the theater.
Wow.
Yeah.
That had to be a really interesting thing. Like the moment you're on stage on this theater that you built.
Yeah.
And you're performing these plays. I mean, that had to be a dream realized. It had to be a pretty special moment.
Yeah, I didn't act that much there. I did more directing. I mean, we produced all the plays. I directed a bunch of them. I think I only acted in one of them. But,
really?
But it was kind of the inmates running the asylum, really, because it wasn't really a company, but it was a company by default because there were a lot of people go-to people that I worked with. But it was really rewarding. My wife built all the sets for all the shows as well as built the place itself.
So intimate. 75 seats.
Really intimate. Yeah. Really intimate.
That's a wild decision to make, to build your own theater.
It was her idea. I wouldn't have done it, probably.
Wow.
Because I had worked in theater. I started producing theater in my early 20s, with a company, and I knew what it's hard. It's not a good business model.
Right.
But if you have the kind of passion, and we just found a way to do it. She was like, no, we'll build it. I was like... but it was really fun while it lasted.
Yeah, he wanted me to do a play. Remember, he offered me a play. That's not for me.
No?
I
You
did
have no
one.
desire?
I did one night only.
What'd you do?
Guys and Dolls in Carnegie Hall with a bunch of Tony winners and me.
But listen, if you're going to do a fucking play, Guys and Dolls.
Guys and Dolls. I was so scared. Remember I told you? I was so fucking... Joe, I would have fought Shaq instead. I swear to God. My agent called. I said, sure, I'll do it. Nathan Lane and all Patrick Wilson and Megan Mullally, all these great people. And me, I went, okay, Jack O'Brien, one of the biggest Broadway directors. And I went, okay, it's a charity for Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
And there you
Look
go.
at you.
Big Julie.
Look at you.
So, 9 days of rehearsal, I'd never been so scared in my life. I tried to get out of it. I said, I told my agent, get me out of this. He said, I can't. I said, there's no way. And I did it, and it was the best thing. When I was done, we had dress rehearsal in the afternoon, and then at night, it was packed.
9 days.
9 days rehearsal. I
Wow.
took the train up to 42nd Street in the rehearsal space every day, and
But what, you did the whole play?
the whole play.
And they memorized all the lines and all
I
that?
memorized
9
all the
days
fucking
rehearsal?
lines. I came in off book.
Is that unusual?
That's fast. We would do 30 days. That's for drama. That's not with,
So it's
we didn't do
9 days.
musicals, so you're not talking about adding
Right.
choreography and all that stuff. But usually 30 days, 4 weeks.
Had an orchestra. It was fantastic. I mean, the night, I was so scared I didn't tell anyone except for my wife and kids. They're the only ones that came. I gave them, that was it.
Wow.
And afterwards, it was sky high. It took me a few days to come down because I was so
Wow.
scared, but then it was so great, Nathan Lane, there's nobody funny than Nathan Lane.
Now, did you want to do it again after that? Or was it such
I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. If it was the right material, maybe, I don't know.
Now, is that's a rushed performance or a rushed getting ready?
Yeah.
Well, it
rushed
was
preparation?
charity. It
Usually
was
one a
one night
month.
only for
month?
charity, you know. I mean, if you were, and that was another thing that added pressure because, if you're doing the play and you're going, all right, if I fuck up Tuesday, I'll come back Wednesday.
Right.
This was, you
All
were
or
all
nothing,
in. This
yeah.
is all or nothing. If I fucked up and there was producers out, the guy from Cats, the big producer, what's his name? The creator of,
Andrew Lloyd Webber?
yeah, he was there. There was all these people and actors. It's like,
Oh, wow.
you fuck up now. I would have been mortified if I blew my line. I was so scared. It's
Yeah.
not like, so you blow your line, on TV, you film it. All right, fucking I'll go back, This was it.
Yeah.
This
That's
was it.
That's it.
2,500 people. I was shitting in my pants. Seriously, one of the most scared things ever.
Did you have a lot of nerves when you started in stand-up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
scary
Yeah.
when you start. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I came from fighting. I went from fighting. I was even fighting. I had 3 kickboxing fights while I was doing stand-up, and I think my first stand-up was more nerve-wracking than fighting.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just also like
What about now?
people didn't. No. Now it's just fun. I mean, it'll probably be nervous for me at the end of the month because I haven't done stand-up in 3 months. Like before I'm doing the Houston Improv just to fuck around, and knock the dust off. I'm sure before I go on stage the first time, I'm like, holy fuck, do you even remember how to do this? Because it's been so long. I've never had a stretch of my career 3 months with no stand-up.
Yeah,
I mean, I've taken 3 weeks off before, and it felt weird. So taking 3 months off is going to be very strange.
Do you combine like set material with improvisation and
Yeah.
free form stuff?
Yeah, there's always something going on in the audience, or there's always something that happens that day, or something that's going on in the news that you can talk about in the moment. But you have to have some, at least I do, I have to have some structure. So I basically, I have places where I know I want to get to, and then, the rest of it is, you got to be in the, you also you have to be there. You can't just be like reading the lines and like rigid with your script, because then the audience doesn't feel like you're having fun. They don't feel like it's fun. That you're orchestrating a dance. It's not just you're putting on a stand-up routine. You're orchestrating their evening. You're having fun. It's like there's a lot to the art form. It's hard to. It would be hard to explain it to a computer, You know what I mean? It's like there's a rhythm there's a thing that's happening with the audience, and you got to know.
That makes sense. Just as simple as like if there was a huge storm that day and everyone went through it together and you're showing up and something like that affects.
Exactly.
You may refer to it or I don't know.
And then there's chaos in the crowd. I've seen brawls in the crowd, all kinds of crazy shit.
But now you're so well known. So do they laugh when?
They give you a break for like 30 seconds, the beginning. You got about 30 seconds. They're like, oh, you're here, Steve. All right.
But if you don't deliver the fucking goods.
Yeah. We came out of our house and got a babysitter. We're so excited you're there. Yeah. And then 30 seconds later, like, where's the fucking jokes, man? This is terrible. And then they're mad at you. And then it's worse. Like, I've seen that happen with comics at the store where, like, a famous guy will go on stage that doesn't really do stand-up. It does stand-up every now and then.
Yeah.
And that is the worst fucking place to do that because you're on a lineup with murderers.
Yeah.
You know, it's Bill Burr and Chris D'Elia and Joey Diaz and Al Madrigal, all these killers. And then some jackoff from a sitcom will try to jump on stage and do 15 minutes and just... In the beginning, they're like, "Oh my God, it's that guy from that show."
Yeah.
And then 30 seconds later, they want to cut your fucking head off.
That's not a good idea.
No, it's terrible.
Just do the sitcom and stay away.
If you're gonna do stand up, you know, you gotta treat it like you're about to go do a fight. Like you want to be in shape if you're gonna fight. If you're gonna do stand up, you better be in shape for it. You better be prepared. You better have real material that's tried and proven, or or whatever you've written. You better go over that shit with a fine-tooth comb. You better be loose. You better be ready. You got to be prepared.
Start small, maybe, to go out of town or
do some
a little
open mic
club,
nights. Do some guest sets if you're a guy like. But there have been some people that were famous first, and then they became stand-ups. I think Charlie Murphy's probably the best example of that. Charlie was Eddie's brother, so he's famous for that. And then he did the Chappelle Show, which was arguably the greatest sketch comedy show of all time. And he had these hilarious parts, but the guy had never done stand-up. And so here he is, a huge fucking star already. Yeah. And then he's going on stage, and he's learning how to do stand-up in front of this audience.
And I think that's incredibly difficult. Almost impossible.
Takes balls.
It's almost like Tom Hanks in Punchline.
Yes.
All right. He acted like a stand-up. He wasn't a great stand-up, but did a good job. If he was acting. You ever see that movie?
No.
It's a good movie. Sally Field, Tom Hanks. They acted as a stand-up. You could tell he's not a stand-up.
Yeah, you see it, and it's like when someone's playing a fighter in a movie, or there's a lot of other things.
Oh, a baseball player. You say this guy can't even fucking throw.
Exactly.
Like with basketball, you see this guy can't play.
Exactly. Yeah. There's things that you can see. Like people that smoke cigarettes will tell me that you could tell by the way a guy's holding a cigarette that he doesn't really smoke.
Absolutely.
They hold it too high in the.
I could never.
You can always tell.
We talked about that on the podcast.
Just the way they hold it.
I could never smoke.
I don't smoke anymore, but I did.
I've never smoked in my life. Never. A cigar I could get away with.
Right.
I can't. If I had to smoke a cigarette, I don't even know how. I could never do it on a show.
I think part of the problem is they're aware that they have a cigarette on them. Whereas a person who smokes cigarettes, they just light that cigarette, and they always have a cigarette in their hand. So it's just a normal part of being who they are.
Of course. Whereas
if you don't, you're like, I got a cigarette in my hand. Everything you're doing, like, there's a cigarette in my hand. I'm going to smoke a cigarette now. It's like,
but you can tell. You can absolutely tell.
You can tell.
You can tell. You say, this guy's not a smoker, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure guitar players feel like that. When you watch a guy playing a guitar player in a movie, I don't know how to play guitar, so I don't understand if he's doing it right or wrong, but I would imagine that would be infuriating.
It's a lot of stuff. But listen, I used to watch the shows in Vegas, movies like from Vegas or TV shows, and in the first 2 minutes, you go, this movie sucks. This sucks. That'll never happen. The deal is rooting for you.
Right.
Yes,
right,
come on.
Yeah,
this will never happen. Just like in New York, a Woody Allen movie. Some Woody Allen movies are like fantasy. The beautiful block with the trees, and it's like if you're from that place or you're a comic, immediately say that would never happen. Not a million years.
Yeah.
I guess in gangster movies too, you see a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad ones.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What's an example of an obviously bad one?
Oh Jesus, I don't even know. There's so many fucking bad ones where you go, this is just ridiculous. This is just, I did one, Kill the Irishman, which I didn't like. There's some really good actors in it, but there's so many things that are off. It was a period piece.
It's a fun movie. I enjoyed that movie. It was a fun
Did you
movie.
like it?
Yeah.
A lot of people liked it.
It.
I didn't like it. I liked it. The first cut, I hated. I remember went to a screening. I told my wife, fucking hated it. And it got better. And as years gone on, we shot it in Detroit. It was supposed to be in Cleveland. Just little shit. Maybe if you're just a viewer, you wouldn't notice. But I did. But there's so many bad.
I heard the Travolta playing Gotti was a bad one. I
heard
see
that was hilarious.
I
heard it was so bad.
I didn't
it was
see
good.
it, but I heard it. Yeah,
I didn't think Travolta was so bad. I thought a lot of the other things were bad. And I think it was they shot some of it in Cincinnati. So that means the extras are from Cincinnati. You know what I mean? It's
Right. Yeah.
you know, but there's a ton of them. You know, people love that genre. Mm-hmm. You know, people love the mob genre, like the westerns or horror films. It's the same thing.
Particularly after The Sopranos. The Sopranos fucking really kick-started that. It really that genre became far more popular.
They tried. I think Mob City was a TV show, and you know, there's been so many of them. And you know, you got the nail on the head, the gangster in a can kind of guy. You go, this guy, you know, and then you got some different stuff. You say, this guy doesn't scare me for 2 seconds.
Right. You know what was crazy for me was going back and watching the original episode of Sopranos where it read like a comedy.
Oh yeah,
very different show. Very different show. When Edie Falco has the gun and she's outside, and her daughter was climbing back into the window. Yeah, but I'm like, this is like a comedy. It's like it was a different show. Like Edie Falco's character evolved and became this very complex woman who is battling with this reality that she's living with this guy who's, you know, a fucking murderer and a mob boss, and she's enjoying the perks of that. It became like this very interesting character. But in the beginning, it wasn't like that. In the beginning, the first episode was kind of funny.
Yeah, when I auditioned and read the script, I wasn't sure if it was a full-on spoof of the mob. I really wasn't sure. There was some, you know, there was the murder scene that my character does, and there was some dramatic stuff. There's a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
And it was around the time, I think, Analyze This, so there was the mob spoof, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't say that, you know, from just reading that pilot episode, it was hard to tell. But I really liked the cast they were putting together, and that was the thing that really sold me on it. Like, I knew some of them, like Edie and Tony Sirico and Vinny Pastore. I knew Jim's work, but I didn't know him personally. I'd seen him in a play, so I was like, this is a good cast. So
yeah.
But it was very hard to tell from that pilot script.
What happened that it evolved and it became what it?
I think that was always the plan. You know, like anything, you start to see what you have. Like, what are these actors bringing? You know, what are they playing to their strengths, and what kind of qualities they're bringing to it. You know, just like there's that one scene in the pilot where at the end, towards the end of the pilot, my character tells Tony Soprano, "Oh, I could go to Hollywood and sell my story or something." And he, in the script, it was kind of, he was like fatherly, like, you don't want to do that and sell out. You got to stay with us and build a family or whatever. And instead, Jim just grabs me, you know, by the throat or something like that. And it became very menacing and very intimidating. And he really, you know, and I think David saw that and was like, oh, wow, that's the guy. That's the character. And it probably influenced how he took the story and how he would write it. But I think a lot of the tone was already in his head. But seeing what the actors were bringing to it, I think, you know, influenced a lot.
Well, Gandolfini was so fucking believable. I mean, you know, there's when you think about a guy who just embodied a role, like when he was Tony Soprano.
Oh yeah.
And he wasn't like that. That's the other thing. He was more like a hippie. You know, he was very laid back. You know, he wore like Birkenstocks and like a bandana on his head. And
big music guy.
He didn't really talk like that. He was.
Yeah.
I wipe my ass with your feelings.
A big music guy, you know.
Yeah, he was.
He never wanted to do a talk show, you know, Joe. I would say, why don't you? Everyone thinks you're Tony Soprano. Right. Why don't you pick, whether it be Letterman or whatever, and show them the real Jim? You're a very intelligent guy. I mean, he's not that guy at all. Matter of fact, he would say to me, like before the season, let's go down and have dinner at Il Cortile, which I ran into you there one time. Let's go down to Mulberry Street. I want to start getting back into the swing of things, because he didn't hang around with those guys. He wasn't that guy at all. But he never did a talk show. He did 60 Minutes. He wouldn't do any of the talk shows. He said, I'm not interesting. No. He wouldn't do anything.
And he didn't grow up around that. He grew up in Jersey. He went to Rutgers University. He was, you know, an actor, theater guy.
I tell you what's funny. You know, I wrote a kid's book called Nicky Deuce, and it turned it into a movie, and Michael's in it, and Paulie Walnuts, and Johnny Sack. And I was in Jim's trailer, and he had just did the movie with Brad Pitt, a mob movie. And He said, Harvey Weinstein called. He wants me to do Letterman. I said, I don't do talk shows. And he gets calling, and he says he got fucking nasty with Jim. And Jim said, I will beat the fuck out of Harvey Weinstein. He fucking calls me again. I will beat the fuck out of him. For the money he paid me, I'm not fucking doing it. Swear to God.
Wow.
And this is all before the Harvey Weinstein shit, when he was still the king shit. This is 2012, you know.
When you see that Academy Award speech thank you compilation where all the people go up, all the various people that eventually talk shit about him go up and praise Harvey Weinstein.
I never saw it. Yeah.
Oh, my God. It's so bizarre. It's so strange.
Because they were intimidated.
Yeah.
That he had that much power over
Yeah.
people's careers, and they didn't feel like their voice would be heard, or that people would, take them seriously.
He
that
would
he'd
know
find a way to fuck you, basically.
What a
fuck you up.
He would
Crazy
know
character.
me. He would know me every 3 or 4 times. Like I run into him in Madison Square Garden, and there's a restaurant, Tribeca Grill, which he had owned a piece of at one point, and give you a half-ass hello, maybe. He was way above. I was beneath him. You know?
Yeah.
He never got punched in the face.
Is that what it is?
I heard Jason Priestley punched him in the face, though.
Jason
at a
Priestley?
party. Yeah. I heard that. He got out of line, and Jason Priestley punched him in the face.
Wow.
I think nobody beat the shit out of Harvey Weinstein, and it wouldn't be that difficult. He could fucking hardly breathe. He's smoking, chain smoking. He
Right.
wasn't a tough guy.
No.
He was tough with assistants,
But he's if you thought about a character in a film, Harvey Weinstein is almost 2 on the head.
Almost unbelievable.
Yeah,
Nobody
almost.
would do that.
He would never
Right.
get away
Too
with all
much,
that.
too
Right.
much.
And
How
get
many
away with
years
it
is
for
he
so long.
doing?
20-something years.
Is it?
Nobody
Yeah.
would do that.
20-something years.
Yeah.
And might be more, right? They got cases
Well, there's way
in
more
LA.
cases. Yeah, there's way more cases. This is just what he's been convicted for.
Right.
I mean, he apparently was behaving like that for decades.
So
and
you're telling me
decades.
nobody knew?
They knew. They all knew. That's what's crazy is it's worked into his fucking contract. His contract had if you get this amount of per sexual harassment case, they had it that he would have to pay this much. If it was 2, he'd have to pay that much. If it was 3, he'd have to. Imagine if you're signing up for a place like, Steve, I know you're a piece of shit, so this is what we're going to work into the contract.
Jesus.
All your piece of shit behavior, we're going to write it down, and you're going to be penalized per piece of shit
didn't know
behavior.
that.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
It's
But you know what else?
They're all complicit.
This is something that I don't understand. These assistants, people in his office, people that knew this stuff, that saw this stuff, that set him up, that he was meeting the girl in the lobby,
Yeah.
but then she comes down and says, oh, Harvey needs to meet you up in his room. She was part of it, or he, or whatever the assistants were. It was like, I mean, I would never do that. I
They
would
can
never
play dumb.
Yeah,
and
I would
there's
never
also,
be privy to that.
No, of course not. But you don't have to. And when you think of an assistant in particular, you're thinking about someone who has virtually no power. And there's a thing called diffusion of responsibility, where there's too many people involved. You don't feel like you're responsible. You don't feel like that's when they say it's easier to assault someone in front of 100 people than it is to assault someone in front of one person.
Yeah.
Because one person might step in and stop it, but 100 people will sit around and go, someone's got to stop this.
Gotcha.
And I think that when you're an assistant, you're working check to check. You got this guy who's the king of Hollywood. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Intimidating you.
Yes, and he's a big,
I understand.
angry guy. Yells at people.
He yells. That's what he did. You know, what's amazing to me is people still haven't come forward, people that worked with him, actors, whatever, actresses. I think they're still afraid somehow he's going to come back, like in a horror film. Keeps on.
Yeah,
He's
or just
dead. He's not
some
dead.
people don't.
He's not
They don't
dead.
want to deal with that publicly.
Yes.
It's a hard thing to talk about.
Right.
They don't want to. They don't want everybody to know. I mean,
I think you're right, and I think also
No,
they
I
feel
don't
like you already
mean
got
people
it.
that he assaulted, just people that were around him,
Oh.
Yeah.
that were aware. I don't know who that is.
I just think they
mean,
don't want to talk about it publicly. I think you're right about that. I think he's already been caught. It's over. They got him. He's in jail. He'll be in jail forever. He's fucked up. His body's falling apart. He can't even walk. I mean,
What
his
a fall
punishment.
from grace.
A spectacular
Jesus
fall in just a
Christ.
few years. I mean, if you go back 7 years ago, there's not a whisper of this, right? So 7 years later, the guy's in jail, can't walk. His body's falling apart.
That's where he just got to get somebody to give him the cyanide pill and fuck it.
Should have
Fuck
done
it.
that at the. He
Yeah.
had to know where this was going
Yeah.
when he was free. He
Just-
should have just fucking.
I don't think he did know. I think
Really?
he thought he was going to get off, and he was planning a comeback, and he was
But
that deluded.
I
He
know
was
one of
really
his
was.
attorneys that was there early on, and he fired him. And I ran into him right before he got sentenced, a few weeks before, and I said, "This fucking Harvey's going to get off." And he said, "No. You see, he won't get off. If he would have kept me," he said,
Really?
"If he would have kept me, I would have got him off." He
How
said,
would he have gotten him off?
I didn't go, I mean, I know the guy, acquaintance from the Knick games. And sure enough, he got, 23 years?
It seems like things happen in the court of public opinion on guys like that.
Well, it certainly did here. I would have there's no way I would want to be. What kind of life is that?
He's such a character. I mean, just with his disgusting face and his body and like everything about it.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And you had some dealings with him,
Yeah,
right?
I did a couple of jobs with him. I wrote a script for him. I had to work with him kind of closely on that.
Did he try to grab you?
No, try to grab me.
What was he like?
He was okay with me. He had opinions. He was all right. I mean, it was just work. There was nothing. I mean, obviously.
You didn't go to dinner with him or nothing?
No. It was only in his office and stuff. I did a job for his brother. A job for his brother.
I think his brother was a nicer guy, right?
He was okay. I think he was very intimidated by Harvey. I think Harvey was a bully to his brother, big time.
It's
Such
just
a fascinating story because
it's incredible. And he had
it's-
the wife and the two
yeah,
kids.
and a beautiful wife, which is
Beautiful
crazy.
wife.
It's like how the fuck does that even happen?
Beautiful wife.
And it's one of those things that if it's in a film, it's almost like he's too much of a villain.
Yeah, you're right.
That would never happen.
All
That
the
could-
details, when you
Yeah.
put it all together, you're like, no, really? In
All those-
Hollywood, where he's famous, and
Right.
he's dealing with the most famous people in the world?
Right, and everybody keeps their mouth shut, and he fucks A-list stars and then puts them in films. Like
Do
what?
you think that some of the women that have denied having sex with him had sex with him?
Yes,
You do?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wondered about
I
that,
would
too.
have probably. I don't know.
You would have fucked him?
No, I wouldn't have talked about it if I did.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? That's hard shit
No,
to talk
I
about.
Yes.
understand, but
Very hard.
the thing about Harvey Weinstein and people like that, they would have had if he would have said, "Listen, I'm a fat, disgusting bastard, but if you bang me, I'll put you in the next movie." They would line up. There would be people lined up around the corner.
I think that is part of what he did.
No, I think I don't know if that's true.
I think, from what I understand,
I don't
part
think
of
he
it.
needed
I
to
think
do
that's part
this.
of it.
I think it's
think-
his ego, and
I think that's too.
like
I
Bill
think that's it,
Cosby
too.
was the same thing.
Yes. It becomes a pathology, and I think there's also a thing about power. It's a power thing to have power over people.
Sure.
And also to have power over these beautiful actresses that everybody else was lusting over. You put some actress in a film, and she's the center of everyone's attention, and she's got a small dress on. She walks into a room, and the whole place lights up, and she's sucking Harvey's dick. That.
It's the power thing.
Yeah,
Because he could have
there's
had
something.
tons of.
That's what I'm
women
saying. He could
who
have had a ton
gladly
of
would be
women,
in
a
the-
ton of women.
I think it's an addiction thing too.
Yes.
I think if there was a recording of this one girl that he had groped, and then she wanted a movie role, and he's grabbing her, and he's like, "Just come back to my place, come on, just come out." Like you're hearing it like a guy asking for heroin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was almost sniveling, like begging her.
Yes,
it was weird. Like
yes.
he'd go from being really intimidating to almost
Yeah.
begging, like, "Pity me, I
Yeah.
need you, please,
Yes.
don't embarrass me."
Right.
It was very weird.
Yeah, I think it's an addiction thing. I
Yeah.
think there was so much going on with that guy.
I mean, he had two young. I don't know if they're daughters. Does he have two young
I don't
daughters?
know.
I think he has older kids, younger kids, and his wife, and they were just gone.
Yeah.
Like, right? Or maybe unless he
Wow,
just
that's
said.
that's a rough trip.
Unless he just said,
whole
"I'm going
thing's
away." I mean, I don't know if they visited him or
rough
what.
I don't
but
know. The whole thing's
Jesus
very rough.
Christ!
It's all crazy. It's a Shakespearean story.
Absolutely.
It is.
Epic proportions.
Horror story for everyone involved.
Well,
Horror story.
the casting couch in Hollywood, if you stop and think about it, right? You've got all these women that want to be in films, they want to be stars. Then you got these guys that can actually help them, make them stars, but they want something. And then you set up this dynamic that's existed since, the fucking 20s.
Imagine what it was like back then.
Oh, my God. Well,
Jesus.
you know the Fatty Arbuckle story?
Yeah. Did you read the book, The I, Fatty, that Jerry Stahl wrote?
No.
It's fantastic.
Yeah?
It's kind of almost like a fake memoir written from his point of view. It's brilliant.
Well,
'Cause he was the biggest star of his day. He
Yes.
was known all over the world.
yeah. I mean, he was basically like he was a comedy star,
Yeah.
a huge star, and he did something with a woman where he stuck like a bottle up her
Well,
vagina.
this goes into it. Apparently, there's theories that he didn't really do that. That it was set up because that the guy was jealous of him, like a studio guy. Yeah, it goes into that. It's a really good book.
And was
Jerry
that the-
Stahl, who wrote Permanent Midnight. He did.
Oh,
he's
okay.
That guy, yeah.
Oh, that's a great book.
Really
is
good.
there real evidence that points to the fact that
There
he was
is.
set up?
I think there is,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
And that was the end of his career?
Oh, yeah.
Done. Toast.
Done. Yeah,
Wow.
the girl died.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awful.
Yeah, there's different
Yeah.
theories that he was set up by somebody, and that all that was just they.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, imagine that.
That's crazy.
Well, I can tell you, the world is a
San
better
Francisco,
place with
yeah.
Harvey Weinstein off the streets.
Well,
Yeah.
he deserved.
Honestly, what he did to
Yeah, it was
all
horrendous.
these actresses and women and
Horrendous.
assistants,
Yeah. Evil.
just horrible. And not sexually, but he destroyed guys too. And
Yeah.
directors, and just a horrible human. And Jesus,
Well, he was getting away with it, right? For the longest time.
For
He
the
had
longest time.
Behavior that was reinforced by the people around him, and then he got away with it. And what's also interesting is, like, if you help someone murder somebody, you would get an accessory. You would get
Right.
prison time. There would be charges, but there's no charges against any of the people
Right.
that absolutely knew
no,
what he was doing.
But that's what I'm saying. I have two daughters. Okay?
Aiding and abetting, that
Yes.
doesn't apply to that.
Right.
Joe, I got two daughters in their 20s. I don't think my daughters in a million years, no matter how much they wanted to be in the business, would be an accomplice to that and tell the girl and say, well, Harvey's going to be up in the room, or,
Right.
whatever crazy things. Go get Harvey's medicine to fucking
Shoot into
inject
his
his
dick.
dick or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
he had-
Come on.
Do you know what he
man.
had? I was going on this text thread with a bunch of comics. He had a type of gangrene that you get from diabetes
A bacterial
on
infection,
his
right?
dick. And his
Jesus
dick was
Christ.
horribly malformed. So I had this. We were talking about this, and then I Googled it. And then I said to my friends, do not Google this. And then they're like, why not? So I send them a photo of it,
Horrible.
of what it looked like. Oh, my God. It's like your genitals just rot away. Like all the skin around it rotted away. And that was one of the things that one of the actresses had said, is that she thought that he was maybe intersex or
Yeah.
transgender, or that he had a vagina, because he was so scarred up.
Oh, my God.
So it's like, it's again, it's almost too on the head. It's like as a movie character, he's almost too disgusting.
Well, who do you see playing him in this movie?
That'd be a good question. Who could pull it off?
Christian Bale. Gain the weight.
I hope they don't make the movie. How's that? I don't want to see that movie.
gotta-
If
Let's
nothing else,
forget it.
Lifetime will do
Please.
it.
They're gonna make the movie.
They'll do it. Lifetime will
yeah.
do it.
Who,
Fuck that movie.
how, I was gonna say this. What do you? There's all this talk about CGI acting, and that they're gonna be able to create CGI characters that act in films. I mean,
I think
was
it'll
just saying.
be really boring.
I think I agree with
Yeah.
you, but I mean, maybe you could have a CGI Harvey Weinstein, and just actually, no one has to play him. It's like no one wants to play Hitler now. It's like it's too much. You don't want to be the guy. Oh, that's that guy who played Hitler. You know what I mean? So like playing Harvey Weinstein in a
Yeah,
film.
that would be.
I think at
Might
some
as well.
point there'll be a movie.
Yeah.
I hope.
I
Oh,
think so.
There has
Right?
to be.
There has to be.
The only thing that would hold it back would be Hollywood saying, like this is probably not good for us.
Yeah.
Oh, so, yeah.
It's opening
An
old
independent
opening
film.
wounds
Yeah,
and hurt.
and
yeah.
you would have to. I mean, if someone really wanted to thoroughly research it and really find out what actually happened, it would take a long time.
Well, those two girls did.
Yeah.
That wrote the book. There's a book out. I think they were writers for the New York Times, or the New Yorker. There is a good book out about two. They really researched.
Does it go into detail about the
I-
speculation of which actresses actually?
I didn't read it. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think at some point, you know what? Didn't they not want to make the Belushi movie years ago? Remember that?
Who played Belushi?
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis.
Really?
Once again.
But that's a very different
After
story.
defending the caveman.
Very different story. Very different.
Yeah, very different.
But wait a minute. But they
Very.
didn't want to make that at the time. That was a big thing. That
Because
actors
of
didn't
the
want to do.
drugs and
Yeah, they do. They were trying to protect them, I guess, and Hollywood kind of fed that beast also. And
But he died and he was beloved. It was different.
Yeah,
no,
that's for sure.
absolutely wired.
This is it.
Yeah.
Oh,
There you
there
go.
he is.
You know,
Is that supposed to be Jeremy Piven? Look at him there. Wow.
Wow,
Chip
he is so young.
Yeah. Wow. How old was Chip?
and they didn't want to make that movie, and a lot of actors didn't want to be in it
Wow.
because of that reason. You know,
Interesting. I never saw this.
they
Never
thought
even
it
heard
might have
about
damaged careers. Do you remember that? I don't.
I don't.
I'm
That
old.
was a long time ago.
Yeah, big difference.
I'm
but
old.
the CGI thing is weird, right? Like, I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to have CGI movies where I think they're going to do it. I mean, they've tried to do it before with like that Tom Hanks animated film. You remember that film?
No.
It's like a Christmas movie. He's on a fucking train. It's like
okay.
an anime. Do you remember that, Jamie?
Something Express.
Yeah, something Express.
And they won't
Polar
want
Express.
Yeah,
at
Polar
least they
Express.
won't want a bigger trailer. The producers will like it, right?
The producers will love it.
The producers will love it.
Well, they'll love it because they can completely
I don't
eliminate
have to listen to this
the
big
artists.
mouth. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Fucking whiny actor.
yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
The Polar Express.
Polar Express.
It was very strange, but it wasn't realistic. It was that uncanny valley between realistic actual people and animation. It was some strange sort of, but you get the feeling that as time goes on, they're going to get better and better at this, and then one day they're going to be able to nail it.
Right. They'll get like Marlon Brando to do a movie.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Like
Like
when
they do with
Tupac
the-
came to Coachella and they had
Yeah.
the hologram.
Yeah,
They'll do
the
stuff like
hologram.
that.
Yeah.
And Nat King Cole and his daughter, remember they sang the
right.
thing?
Oh, yeah.
Sinatra's coming back.
That's
a
right.
new Here to Eternity.
God, that's so strange. Does that shit drive you crazy?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll be
does.
retired.
I've done
by then.
green
I'm
screen
fucking done.
stuff, and I find it really boring and tedious.
Green screen stuff?
Yeah. No, I haven't done like that animated version thing, but green screen is. Ugh.
Well, yeah, given your sensibilities, if something came up like that for you, like a Jurassic Park type movie or something like that, would you even be interested in that?
I don't know. It depends where I'm at the time.
Right.
If I was broke or not or something. I don't-
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to factor those things in.
Right, of course.
No, I mean the most fun thing is when you're dealing with other actors and going eye to eye and,
Mm-hmm.
and playing off each other. That, to me, at least, not everyone's like that. A lot of people like doing action and all that stuff. I don't really care for that stuff so much.
Yeah.
I like more the.
Well, that's the best
interaction.
part of the business, the actual work, Joe.
course.
I don't like show business. I don't know if you do. I don't.
No.
I like the actual. There's days, like even on Blue Bloods, I'm working, and I work a lot with Bridget Moynihan or Donnie Wahlberg, or you go, "Hey, this is why I became an actor. This was
Yeah,
a lot
that's-
of
that's
fun.
the-
They respect
a lot of
each
fun.
other. The material's really good. The scene goes.
What do you mean
work
by you
on-
don't like show business? What do you mean?
I'm not the whole bullshit. Agents, managers, opening nights. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not for me. I went to the Emmys 4 times, the SAG Awards. I wanted to stick fucking needles in my eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not me. I like real people. Most of my friends are friends that I've had my whole life. Michael's one of my closest friends, but you know what I mean. I mean, I'm not a showbiz guy. There's some guys that are showbiz guys. They love it.
Yeah.
They love going in and pitching. I love it. I love this. I love that. The whole world, the whole scene. I don't, I like the work. That's it.
Yeah.
I was kind of in show business even at the Riviera by default. I don't
Right.
know. Somehow I went from a bouncer to booking acts, and, I don't dislike them. I just not a showbiz.
It's a funny path.
It's a funny
Yeah.
thing.
Your path is very funny.
Very strange. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very.
I tell them
very
like an
unique.
Italian Forrest Gump.
It's such a weird world. You just sort of stepped into it.
Kind of, yeah. And listen, I've worked very hard, and I love
Yes.
the work. I mean, but that part I don't like.
Yeah.
There's some people who love it. They were always there opening night, and at premieres. And listen, I'm there if I'm supporting someone, a friend of mine or something like that. I don't go just to go on the red carpet, take pictures, and the fuck do I care, you know? I mean, I don't. That's not my thing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't like it either.
I don't think you like that kind of stuff.
No,
you
no,
like
but-
you're doing what you do.
Yeah, that's why I like doing this. It's like it's outside of it.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, the work on The Sopranos, on other shows, on movies, go, man, that was fucking great. I had a great day, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, not even if it's high profile. Like we did the movie, that was great. You know, every day was a great day. But
Now, how do are they resuming filming now for things like?
The governor of California said, I think this week they're allowing some productions to open up again.
not in New York. I'm here in August, maybe early September.
What's interesting is because of the protests, the COVID cases have ramped up, and no one's saying that. It's hilarious. They're like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
They're all playing dumb on TV because no one wants to blame it on the protests or connect it in some way to the movement because then you'll be labeled a
look
racist
bad.
or something.
Yeah.
So they're not even saying anything. So the people that we're relying on for the news are playing dumb as to why hundreds of thousands of people marching together face to face, screaming. How that ramps up.
I guess we're going to know in about 2 or 3 weeks.
We already know. We already know.
But the mayor of New York, de Blasio, said the people either getting tested or whatever, don't ask them if they were protesters.
Yes. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah. When they're doing contact tracing, they are not allowed to ask if you were a part of a protest. Which is hilarious.
The world is upside down, brother. I want out.
So strange.
I want off.
Does it bounce back?
Stop the world.
It'll bounce back.
You think
it'll
it'll
be
bounce
different,
back?
But it'll bounce. I think
It's going to take a long time.
Do we ever get to a place of logic? Do you ever get to a balanced place? Because it seems like this woke ideology that's permeated politics now. It went from being a thing that only existed in universities to it was existing in like tech startups, and it was starting to get into media, and it was working its way to journalism, and now it's fucking everywhere.
in life.
It's in
But
politicians.
often things have to go really far before they kind of find a balance into society. Like a lot of the protest movement, which I find hopeful, is a lot of young people.
Yes.
Very diverse crowd who are just saying we don't want this
Right.
world we're inherited with racism and systemic racism and stuff. And that gives me a lot of hope.
The protest gives you hope.
Protests.
Yeah.
You know, when Parkland happened and there was this big movement of young people who saying, we're scared to go to school. We want something done. That was, these kids who were saying, hey, we want something different. And as they get older, I think it'll be integrated into society in ways that, will work. I hope. You have to have hope. Otherwise, it's just too, I have a lot of hope in the young generation. I really do.
Well, I have hope in humans. And I think that if you look at the history of humans, if you go back 200 years, the way people behaved, and you compare it to today, there's a vast improvement in almost every area.
100%.
And I think
agree.
this is a big blip on the radar. This is a big moment in time. And I think we'll come out of that on the other end a better species.
I agree.
But along the way, there's going to be a lot of devastation, like the fucking looting and the rioting and this stupid shit with de Blasio not asking if people have been protesters to find out what effect this thing has had.
Right.
Where you do get people that are in the middle of a pandemic and you get them on top of each other, breathing in each other's spit. And that's what's happening.
World is insane.
It's fucking
It's
insane,
gone crazy,
Steve.
man.
It has.
And there's nowhere to go. Like, you can't say, well, I'm just going to pack up and
Yeah.
where?
Well, what's really crazy is it's all overseas, too. I've been looking at these London riots. Like, they're having riots now in London. So, and in France. Like, what the fuck happened that this shit made it all the way across the ocean?
Yeah.
It's so strange. It's like, how did you guys start fighting? Like, what are you rioting for? What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they're
think New
protesting
Zealand.
too.
Somebody
They're not
told
just
me New
rioting.
Zealand.
So
Right.
there are also people
Right.
who just have conscience about this and
Yes.
want change.
There's
But there's the the extreme people who are, and some people who are not protesting who are just causing
And in some ways, it's hopeful because it shows you that the United States still radically affects the world culturally.
That's true.
When there is something that's happening over here, the rest of the world sort of takes notice. The United States, like it or not, does take the lead culturally.
Oh yeah. Yes, they do.
Yeah, I mean, and then with films, that's a huge part of it. I mean,
Huge.
when
TV too.
TV and films. I mean, you stop and think. I mean, there's been some great films and movies and television shows that have come out of England and the UK and other parts of the world, but overwhelmingly, the art form emanates from here.
We take the lead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with stand-up, this is where it started. stand-up started in the United States, and the difference between the stand-up here, the level stand-up here versus the level everywhere else, totally incomparable.
Now, have you done stand-up in other countries?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I get it, man. 4 bottles of water. I don't know how you still hear
Have
it.
you done?
Yeah, I've done stand-up in Australia. I love doing it in Australia. I've done stand-up in England. I've done stand-up in Ireland. Yeah.
Oh, so and audiences, what do you find?
They're
Smarter?
great. They're great.
Smarter, dumber?
No, attentive, very attentive.
Very attentive.
Yeah, like I took my friend Tony to Stockholm, Sweden, and he was like, he goes, dude, I felt like I bombed. I go, no, they laughed. They just laugh and then they listen. It's different. You get a different vibe. Like they laugh. You just have to. And then the second show, he goes, I got it now. He goes, it just felt so different. He goes, it just felt like they didn't roll with you. I go, you also have to remember English is their second language. So when they're listening to you, there's, they have to kind of translate it, and they're laughing, but also cultural context is very different. Like they get our culture, they get the context, but it's not as front and center as it is if you're doing a show in Columbus, Ohio, or something like that.
Wasn't it like in the 90s? I think it was in the 90s where comics were going to England, U.S. comics didn't like the audiences here anymore.
Hicks.
Right?
Yeah, Hicks became huge over there.
Rich Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some other comics. Mm-hmm. There was a ventriloquist, David something.
Yeah.
They went to Australia and England, right?
Yes. Well, England has fantastic audiences, and they're really attentive. They really listen well, and they do their stand-up very differently. Their stand-up over there is like thematic. Like they have a theme, and they'll carry that theme through their whole stand-up. It's very different. But, there's been comics like Ricky Gervais is a great example that have done very well.
He's got a great show. You like his show on Netflix? Oh, yeah.
He's great at everything he does.
Great.
He's
funny guy.
Yeah, and I loved when he was hosting the Golden Globes.
Loved that. He was great. Really great.
Yeah, I mean, just tells him, shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
because there's so much virtue. This latest thing where all these actors have this black and white video where they're talking about racism.
Ripped into them.
I take responsibility.
Yeah,
that one.
What are you doing? You know what I was saying to my friend? I go, you know what that is? These motherfuckers haven't gotten any attention for months because they haven't been filmed.
Well, remember
jumping on it.
Well, you talked about it with the song Imagine at the beginning, right?
Yes. You fucking morons.
They got blowback from that.
Well, they got blowback from this, too. Everything they try to do that virtue signals, like, we're going to take a stand. This is no longer going to happen. It's not good. Like, nobody thought it was good.
Yeah,
this is not what this is. What this is a fucking horrible cop. It's a really bad guy who killed somebody. It's not like these actors are out there being racist and holding people back and trying to. That's not what you're doing. Like, you're taking responsibility? No, you're trying to get attention. That's what you're doing. This stupid fucking thing you're doing. I wish if they ever feel like doing that again, call me. Call me. I'll tell you how it's going to turn out. Every one of these dumb things you're going to do, I'll tell you how it's going to come out. If you're going to have one actor and then the next, you're going to cut to each one of them, I take responsibility.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You take attention.
Exactly.
You're sucking it up like a sponge. Shut the fuck up and wait. You're a week away from filming again.
But that's also, we've talked about, there's people that do stuff, for the money, right?
Yes.
And then there's some that the money's irrelevant. They need to be told how great they are and pat on the back. And that's what they need.
And then there's some of them that are so wrapped up in this liberal and progressive ideology that they literally can't see how dumb this looks to the rest of the world. They think they're going to do a good thing, and they think that through their celebrity, they're going to use their platform and their voice, and they're going to make a difference.
Yeah.
If you really think that as a professional actor, you're going to make a fucking difference with racism and crime and violence and police brutality, you should stop acting because you should go to a fucking doctor and get your head checked.
I agree.
There's something wrong with you.
Just shut up and act. Shut up and act.
Listen,
That's
if
what
you've
we
got
like.
opinions on
You
something,
can express your opinions.
Yes.
That's
Well,
cool.
yes.
And people, want to know.
But don't preach.
But that video was a little bit
cringy.
sanctimonious and very,
Yeah, I got it from a bunch of
I don't
my
even know what
friends.
it means. I'll be honest with you.
It means I want attention.
Yeah.
It means I want attention, and get ready to cringe. Get ready to clench your butthole shut and go, oh, no, no, what are you doing? What are you doing?
that was kind of weird.
Do you guys know who Kyle Dunnigan is?
No.
Kyle Dunnigan
I
is,
know that he's a comic, right?
hilarious comic who does a lot of these face swap videos. and he does Caitlyn Jenner like fucking. It's one of his Instagram page is the funniest fucking Instagram page on the planet Earth by far. But he's got this new one that he did where he go to it, Jamie. Go to Kyle Dunnigan's Instagram page. You gotta see this, where he has these characters that he does with the face swap, and he shoves them into that video. So you get, and it's just
that I
it
cringed when I saw
lampoons.
that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, wait till you see this, because this is the perfect antidote for that cringe. Here we go. Jamie will cue this up here.
Jamie,
the guy is a goddamn genius.
I take responsibility.
I don't see it, Jamie.
Did you see this?
Here it goes. Watch.
Steve?
I take responsibility. I'm on the fence about it, but I'm listening.
I take responsibility for every unchecked moment.
For every time I said, give me 5, on the right-hand side.
I take responsibility for not listening to Megan
And
and leaving me knickers on the floor.
they're called underpants.
I will no longer allow an unchecked moment.
I will no longer throw away the African American part of the Oreo cookie just to get to the creamy white middle.
I will hire more black hookers.
Going for a jog should not be a death sentence. Sleeping in your own home should not be a death sentence.
Sorry, I guess. I don't know.
We are no longer bystanders.
Well, who the hell's that broad?
Racist, murderous cops need line.
The only time it's going to stop is when you start truly holding the perpetrators to account. Start putting them in jail.
You're welcome.
Racism, rest in peace.
that is funny.
That's
good.
That's good, but that's nothing compared to some of his other shit.
Yeah.
Go to his page if you
I
need
gotta
something to
look at
laugh
that.
at. His,
But have
some
you
of the-
seen the real one?
Yeah.
You saw it. Yeah.
He does ones with the Kardashians where he has Caitlyn Jenner talking to the Kardashians, but the Kardashians don't really talk. They just make noises like me, beep, beep, beep. No, you fucking idiot. That's not what I said. Like it's genius. It's genius. But yeah, this is what it is. I mean, everybody, and I like a lot of those people that are in that video. Unfortunately, I think they're great.
Uh-huh.
I just think somebody should talk to them. Somebody outside the business. Just grab them by the
That's their
shoulders.
publicist.
And
Their
they're home.
publicist
They're
call.
not seeing people. They're
That's
not
what it
getting
is.
feedback.
That's what
the
it
thing,
is. Yeah, they need feedback. Someone needs to grab them and go, listen to me. Don't
Don't do this one.
Don't do this. Don't do this.
The publicist is.
Well, the problem is also if
Putting it
someone
out there.
comes up to them and tells them, are you willing to take a stand against racism? And they're like, no. Like, you can't say no. So you just wind up doing it because you don't want anybody to think you're a racist. So you just kind of hop on board.
They did get big blowback. That
Of course.
and the song.
The song got the bigger blowback.
That song got
because
bigger
that was
blowback.
ridiculous. She was all smiling and beautiful. Imagine there's no
Their
heaven.
big mansions and
Yeah.
And what was that about?
that was about the pandemic.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
But
you
what
know,
does Imagine have to do with the pandemic?
Exactly.
The song has nothing to do with the pandemic.
It was Gal Gadot's idea. She was apparently calling up all these celebrities, asking for them to join in song, and they're gonna heal everybody through love and music.
you know, people had their
Yay.
big mansions, and the guy
Imagine
can't pay his.
There's no heaven. But meanwhile, what a terrible song to sing when people are dying.
Right.
Imagine there's no heaven. Imagine grandma's just rotting.
But also, that song has
over.
nothing to do.
No.
Doesn't parallel the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you
No,
know,
it doesn't.
and
You're
Joe,
right.
and especially at the time in New York, I mean, we've had 3 or 4 people that we know that died, you know, and numerous people that got sick, and they were those refrigeration trucks. I mean, they were
Yeah.
everywhere, man,
Yeah.
and the ambulances were going. I mean, you know, things have calmed down, but it was fucking
It was
horrible.
800 people a day in New York at one
It
point
was
in time, which is
horrible.
crazy to imagine. I mean,
mean-
think about 9 of your theaters, right?
It was
More.
horrible, and then like
Filled
I
with
said, and
people
then
every day.
you knew people. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, there's, you know, a guy owned a diner, a couple diners. Like, I've known the guy for 20 years. A photographer from the Garden, a good guy. He died. Another friend of mine.
Yeah.
I mean, they died, and numerous people got it.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. I mean, some places there wasn't many cases. So I could understand, like, in a way, you see it on TV, yeah, but it's not here.
Right.
But in New York, and people are holed up. They can't pay their rent. They can't pay their bills. They
Yeah.
they can't eat. Luckily, they got stimulus and unemployment eventually. At the beginning, no. And then you got some celebrity. Ellen saying it's like being in jail. She lives in the biggest house in the world.
Yeah.
On the beach.
Yeah.
It couldn't be any better where she's
But
living.
the thing about Ellen was she got a little blowback. She got a lot of blowback, but that was a funny joke. She said, I'm in the same clothes every day and everyone's gay. It's like being in jail. That's funny.
Is that what the joke
Yeah,
was?
that's what the joke was.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't saying I'm in jail over here in my
Okay,
mansion.
then I got it wrong.
She was, it was. What she said was fucking funny. She was like, this pandemic is like being in jail. I'm in the same clothes every day, and everyone's gay. I mean, that's funny.
That's funny.
Because she's gay. She lives with a gay woman. I mean, it's like, that's a funny
Gotcha.
joke.
All
It was a
right,
good joke.
My mistake.
People were mad at her. I'm like, oh, come on.
Oh, they took it
mistake.
out of context.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
they didn't
absolutely.
care. It's also when people are broke and people can't literally, they're not just broke, there's no hope in sight, and it's no fault of their own. It's a very bad situation.
Terrible.
They don't want to hear any fucking jokes from some really rich lady who lives on the beach talking about how this is like prison.
I mean, honestly, and listen, I'm very compassionate. I mean, these people lost their jobs and they didn't have extra money, or
Right.
maybe they're divorced and child support. And I mean, this is real shit.
lot
And
of
there
people
was
losing
no
their
way to
businesses.
make money.
Right. That's it.
Even
Yeah.
as much as a guy wanted to go to work or whatever, there was no
couldn't.
work to be had.
Right. No work to be had. Everything's shut down. Yeah. It's a mess. Yeah. And then you take into account how alcohol like sales was an essential business. Liquor stores is an essential business. But Alcoholics Anonymous was banned.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So you couldn't go to meetings. So there's these people that are just like in despair, and then they can't go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and they can't work. And then, there's a lot of bad things happening.
I Sunday was the first time I had a drink in 3 months since this thing started. I didn't have one drink. I was depressed. I knew if I get a drink and watch TV all night. I mean, I just had my first drink on Saturday.
What did you spend the time
3
doing
months.
during the pandemic?
I would walk just about every day and really nothing. I mean, I'm not a big TV guy. I was reading,
Doing the podcast.
watching some TV, doing the
press for
podcast,
podcast.
preparing that, doing press, radio and Zoom and shit like that. It kind of kept us sane. We were doing 2 a week, then we went down to 1. And I had my wife with me and my daughter. We cooked every night, and I didn't see my older daughter for over a month and a half. She just lives in the village. I didn't even see her.
Wow.
I mean, you couldn't even see her, I mean, plus I don't want to get sick. I'm overweight. I mean,
Right.
I'm not a smoker or nothing. And, my wife's a marathon runner, but we're older. I don't want to get fucking sick. And so we were careful. I'm still careful here, but, listen, it's a terrible thing, man. And it's not over.
No, it's kicking back in. That's what's crazy because of the protests and because of a lot of the states have lifted up their social distancing and and then people are acting like there's nothing happening, so they're going to bars and they're drinking and they're on
People
top
are
of each
also
other.
tired of it.
Yeah, they're tired of it.
And feel like, if it's open, it's open. Let's
Right,
go. And there's
exactly.
I understand that, but the thing is, it hasn't gone away. I mean, and
No, it
I don't
hasn't.
know what the fucking answer is. I understand everyone's tired of it, but listen, down in Orange County, the beaches are packed.
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 Well, the good news is vitamin D is one of the most important factors in keeping a healthy immune system. And one of the things that they found out was that 80+% of the people that are in the ICU with COVID have a vitamin D deficiency. 4% have sufficient levels of vitamin D. It's a huge factor because vitamin D is not just I had a lady, Dr. Rhonda Patrick. She's been on my podcast several times. She went into this whole I brought her on to talk about how to strengthen your immune system during this time. And she said one of the most important factors is vitamin D. It's a huge factor. It's one of the reasons why people on the East Coast, they get that seasonal depression. They're not going out in the winter, and if they're not supplementing with vitamin D. 70% of America is vitamin D deficient. 70% has insufficient levels.
And that's in the sun, vitamin D?
Yes, you get it from the sun. That's the best way to get it for sure, is to get in the sun. But you can supplement it.
Well,
and it has a big
I'm
impact
hoping.
to supplement. 5,000 IUs a day, supplement. Take it.
And, like you said, I didn't understand that. Liquor store is essential,
Crazy.
but all these other things aren't essential. And I mean, you're fucking drinking, your immune system's going down, you're depressed as fucking hell. There was some nights, I can't sleep at night. So I go to bed at 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning. I mean, some nights I'm up alone. It's fucking horrible.
But there's a logic to the reason why they had alcohol being an essential business is there's logic to it, and that is there's a lot of people that are alcoholics, and if you make them quit cold turkey and they can't buy any booze, you're going to take beds up that would be better suited for people that have COVID.
Gotcha.
So the idea is just like let these people have their alcohol. They just didn't think it was going to last as long as it did. They thought this was going to be a couple of weeks of lockdown and then we'd get back to business, but obviously here we are in fucking June. I mean, all this shit happened
mid-June,
middle of March.
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah, it's
three solid months. It
Crazy.
is easier here.
Yes.
After being in New York, I was there, for 2 months of it. It's just easier here.
It's easier here because people are more spaced out.
Exactly.
You get in your car.
I got a backyard. I've got a thing. It's just easier as opposed to being holed up. And I got a pretty good sized apartment, but it's not the same. Man.
Yeah.
Going down the elevator and the shit,
And here it's sunny every day too, which is obviously better for your immune system. Yeah.
And it's just better for yourself anyway.
Yeah.
Just like you wake up, it's fucking.
It's better for your head.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I get New York. I get it. I don't want to do it anymore. It's like I could be there occasionally for
Have
fun.
you ever lived in New York?
Never lived in the city. I lived in New Rochelle when I lived in New York.
I grew up right in Mount Vernon.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Yeah. I knew a pool player named Mount Vernon Tommy.
Vinny Pastor's from New Rochelle.
Oh, is he really? Yeah.
And I think Chuck Zito as well.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived there because I couldn't afford to have a parking spot. I needed a place to. I had to have a car because I had to do gigs. So
Right.
I didn't know that you lived there.
Yeah, that's where I lived.
And where'd you work? All the places in Long Island and
Everywhere, yeah. Connecticut, Long Island, Jersey.
Pips.
Oh yeah, I did Pips in Brooklyn.
Pips?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
That was our friend's place.
Yeah.
Ray Garvey.
Garvey.
Did you know Ray Garvey?
No.
He at some point, in the 90s,
Bought it at some point.
he owned Pips, but that had been there forever.
Yeah. It's gone now, right?
It's gone. I think it's a sushi restaurant.
Is it really?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
That
did
was
all
where
those
Rodney
things.
started. David Brenner,
Richard Jenny too.
Richard Jenny. I think Dice. I don't know if he started, but Dice and Seinfeld was there early on. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
Sheepshead Bay, right? Is that right?
Yeah, and there was no comedy clubs back then.
Right.
A bunch of rowdy fucking Brooklyn guys there.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been an easy gig.
Oh, it was a tough gig. Yeah. Yeah. Joey Cola, my friend Joey Cola was there, and some guy was.
He's a friend
Joey's
of
great.
you know Joey?
He comes on with us to
The live show.
The live show.
Ask him about Pips. Some guy was showing him his gun, sitting in the front row, pulling up his waist, showing him his gun. Go, fuck you, look at this. And like Joey's up there, hey, trying to tell us jokes.
Yeah, we do this comedy with the conversation with the Sopranos. He's a comic. He comes
opens-
with us everywhere.
He opens and he interviews us on stage.
Oh,
He's
that's
the best
hilarious.
guy.
I love
There's
Joey.
no
He's
better
good.
guy.
I've known him for 30 years.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And he's been around a long time.
Yes, he's a funny comic too.
Yeah. He does great. And we had a European tour that got canceled because of the 16 cities. And Joey was coming with us.
Now, when something like that gets canceled, did they have an idea when to do it again?
We're talking next June. We're supposed
Next
to do
June.
it.
Wow,
Mostly
a year.
UK and Ireland.
Well, that's probably safe. A year from now, that's a good bet.
UK
Things
and
will be
Ireland,
popping
yeah.
again.
And, in Australia, we were doing like 2,500 people a show.
Wow.
Which is just this little show, me, him, and Vinny. And we had an Australia comic who was a nice guy, but he fucking died every night except for his hometown. Adelaide. He was in Adelaide. But this year we're out there. We're playing the London Palladium 2 nights.
Oh, wow.
It was doing big business.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, like I said, we answer questions. Joey does a comedy, and we've done it a lot of places here, Atlantic City, Foxwoods, and this time Joey was coming on the road. So right now we're scheduled next June.
Well, I hope nothing crazy happens between now and then.
I hope not.
Jesus Christ. It's like
That's a big hope.
It is a big hope, right? Because it's hard to tell. It's like you would have imagined, you're going to be fine. But all bets are off now.
All bets are off.
We're behind the looking glass now.
Yes.
It's a strange time.
This is terrible.
But But listen, tell everybody one more time the name of your podcast, how to get it.
Talking Sopranos. You can go to talkingsopranos.com or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts, and YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Hey,
Appreciate
Joe,
you.
thank you. Good seeing you.
Always good seeing you, brother.
Thank you.
Always.
Really, thank
Thanks.
you so much.
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah,
Great
pleasure.
to meet you.
Same
All
here.
right, everybody. Bye.
Joe, thank you very much.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Sorry I had to run it.